It's just real this time. We had contented ourselves in the past to listen to politicians like Clinton talk about reinventing government. I mentioned this last week. Clinton in '97 talking, setting the stage, and then he ushered in Al Gore to be the point man on reinventing government, and that was going to be Al Gore's springboard to the presidency in 2000. Here's Clinton in '97.
This report tells us how to cut waste, cut red tape,
and Gore.
Streamline the bureaucracy, change procurement rules, change the personnel rules, and create a government that works better and costs less.
I've read it, and where it says the president should, the president will.
Among the 800 recommendations, eliminating 12% of the federal workforce, merging some government agencies like the FBI, the DEA, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, closing hundreds of government offices outside Washington.
Does that sound familiar at all? In fact, in some respects, they're more aggressive. Nobody's talking at present about merging the FBI, the ATF. That's 30 years ago almost. And it's a Democrat. And it's Al Gore, of all people, in addition to Clinton. But they weren't serious about it, so there was no concern. This is just posturing. This is so you can have a little press conference and you can create the perception that there's a new way of doing business that has come to D.C. with these new Democrats like Bill Clinton. But it was all phony. Just like, 2011 when Obama said similar. It was all phony.
The day I took office, one of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we would do a better job here in Washington in rooting out wasteful spending. We thought that it was entirely appropriate for our governments and our agencies to try to root out waste, large and small, in a systematic way. It means cutting some programs that I think are worthy, but we may not be able to afford right now. A lot of the action is in Congress and legislative, but in the meantime, we don't need to wait for Congress in order to do something about wasteful spending that's out there. We haven't seen as much action out of Congress as we'd like, and that's why we launched on our own initiative the campaign to cut waste. And we're going to keep on finding every possible way that we can do that, even if Congress is not active. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. The campaign to cut waste in 2011, reinventing government in 1997. How'd it go? But this time you have people who mean it and who are doers. They're not just there to read a speech in the Rose Garden and then get about their merry way of using the federal government to distribute the spoils of war, like most politicians for as long as this country has existed have done, which is why we are where we are fiscally and with the size of the government we have, the size, the intrusiveness, because it's not just about size, it's about the expense, it's about the intrusiveness, it's about the torpor that it instigates, restrains the creative energies of the American people. Now you have some people who are serious. And look at the reaction. Compare the reactions. Go back in your memories and compare the reactions to these sort of what you knew were pro forma rhetorical positionings by politicians like Obama and Clinton, and compare the reaction from the same people today. They know it's real. Big difference.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 5:38, speaking of the hue and cry, federal workers right here in Chicagoland take to the streets in frigid weather to protest these draconian cuts. 5:38.
And later, where does Elon Musk want to die? But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott. Good morning, Mike.
5 above with a wind chill of 13 below. The U.S. Department of Agriculture apparently accidentally fired several agency employees working on the government response to the bird flu. And they are swiftly being rehired and having terminations rescinded. Federal judge declining a request from 14 attorneys general to temporarily ban Elon Musk from accessing data at 7 federal agencies. The judge ruling the AGs had not shown specific examples of how Doge would cause harm. U.S. Appeals Court is blocking the former Biden administration's student loan forgiveness plan. the 8th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals yesterday, ruling in favor of a large coalition of Republican states that challenged the plan. President Trump and the head of DOGE, Elon Musk, sat down with Sean Hannity last night, assuring states won't struggle with education if the Department of Education is abolished.
When we give that back to Indiana, when we give that back to Iowa and back to a lot of the states that run well, they run well. There's a lot of them, 35, 37, 38. Now, you're going to have 10 laggards, but you're going to have 5 real laggards, but that's going to be okay.
KFC moving its headquarters out of Kentucky. The Fried Chicken Company announcing it's moving its U.S. headquarters out of its home state to relocate in Texas. The owner of KFC, Yum Brands, says the move is part of its broader plan to build a permanent corporate headquarters in Plano, Texas. One person is dead, another injured after a house fire in Naperville. No word on that person's name and no word on the other victim's condition that was injured in the fire. The cause still being investigated. Chicago's first ever hybrid school board is now complete. Yesterday, Mayor Brandon Johnson appointed Sidney Wallace to the board, his final appointment, as Chicago aldermen are expected to vote today on an $830 million bond issue rammed through by Mayor Brandon Johnson. The mayor reiterating recently his refusal to cut any spending during community forums.
We never compromised our value system. We negotiated the details around this budget so that there was a fiscally responsible, balanced budget.
The S&P Global Ratings downgraded Chicago's general obligation debt shortly after the city council approved a $17.1 billion spending plan favored by the mayor. A bill filed in the Illinois State House seeks to end property taxes for qualified taxpayers who live in and pay taxes on a residential home for at least 30 years. Senate Bill 1862 is co-sponsored by State Senator Dave Severson. Racine, Wisconsin police have confirmed that 2 were badly hurt after a house exploded there on Gilson Street. The fire and explosion are under investigation. Also last night, Kenosha voters denied a multi-million-dollar school referendum in last night's primary election in that state. School officials with the district were asking that funding cover a huge budget deficit along with installing new safety measures. And Darrell Brooks, the man who killed 6 in the Waukesha, Wisconsin Christmas parade attack, is firing his lawyer again, like he did before and during his month-long criminal trial. Brooks wishes to represent himself on appeal. Cubs bringing in a 2-time All-Star. Justin Turner signs a 1-year deal. The 40-year-old was an All-Star with the Dodgers in 2017 and 2021. College hoops, Fighting Illini lost to number 11 Wisconsin, 95-74. Also around the top 25, couple of upsets. TCU dumps number 10 Texas Tech, and BYU takes down number 25 Kansas. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
On March 4th, President Trump will make his first address to a joint session of Congress of his new presidency.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
And AM 560 The Answer is throwing a watch party, and you're invited to join us for dinner at the Meridian Banquets and Conference Center in Rolling Meadows. Enjoy dinner before the speech, and then watch the speech with AM 560's Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson, and Sean Thompson. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/watch. Sponsored in part by attorney Stephen A. Leahy at Opum Tax Advocates.
Come on with this, people. Move it!
Did you really think you could make that company deliver yourself?
Oh, I cannot handle any more traffic.
You could be getting much more done at your place of business.
I've wasted 45 minutes and now this place is gonna close.
Time is money. Let Quick Delivery Service take on the traffic hassle for you. They'll deliver almost anything, from From large pallets of materials to important documents, or both. No forms, no labels, no scanning. Just tell Quick Delivery Service where it's going, they'll pick it up, and get it to your destination quickly. Your cargo delivery is tracked in real time with GPS. Notifications are delivered right to your inbox. Visit QuickDelivery.com. That's QuickDelivery.com. Or you can deliver like this.
Seriously, another train?
Or get your delivery there on time with QuickDelivery.com. Or call 847-534-2244. 847-534-2244.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has made Wesley a trusted resource for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call, and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit, 800-839-8484. 800-839-8484. 800-839-8484.
Jeff Tishlar, author of High Tech versus the Highest Tech, has shared his knowledge of the spectacular things that we see in nature as opposed to what man has created, and how this should inform one's faith. Jeff served on the mission field all over the world and has created this highly illustrated and concisely written technical book. The easy-to-read format is understood from the youngest reader to the most intelligent and mature readers. Google and Amazon book reviews include, "This is the best little book I have ever read. It is amazing how much information is in this book." And a beautifully written and illustrated book. The author has a gift for describing complicated technical details in a very understandable style. This book is available now in paperback on Amazon. Search High Tech versus the Highest Tech by Jeff Tishlar. 100% of proceeds go to missions. That's High Tech vs. the Highest Tech by Jeff Tishlar.
541 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. North Barrington, very icy conditions have shut down Route 59 this morning. North and southbound between Cuba and Route 22. Old Barrington Road is your alternate there this morning. Downers Grove, Ogden Avenue, westbound shut down between Fairview and Sterling with a bad accident. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Cloudy, bitterly cold, a flurry late this afternoon, and a high of 15. Few flurries overnight, then clearing out as we approach dawn. Frigid, a low of 5. 5 above at O'Hare with a wind chill now of -6. And your next news update is at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy talking a bit about last night's full airing of the Hannity sit-down with Trump and Musk, and, of course, Doge by extension, and all the litigations and the litigation in federal court and the barbs going back and forth over the constitutionality and propriety of what Musk and the Doge boys are doing. Interestingly, MSNBC, one of their cast members, Jose Diaz-Balart, former congresshuman, even he had to concede the obvious about some of what Musk and the Doge boys have uncovered.
There was an Inspector General audit last year that showed over an 8-year period, the Social Security Administration made almost $72 billion in improper payments, a little less than 1% of payments in that time period. Now, the report also says that most of these improper payments were overpayments, not payments to deceased people or people who didn't qualify to receive these payments. At the same time, Jose, this effort by DOJ is to go through this agency like every other and try to weed out waste and fraud.
Yeah, I mean, and also $72 billion, and that's without a comprehensive search. I mean, that's significant.
Yeah, it is significant. $72 billion may not be significant to the We Shall Overcome crowd on the mall, but it's significant to any sensible person. $72 billion, that's just the Inspector General. That's not doing the DOJ deep dive. And the MSNBC reporter, mainly overpayments, not payments to the deceased, mainly.
Okay, just like it's just a few apartment complexes, right?
Right, because the number of people over the age of 100 that are on the Social Security rolls, and obviously some of them are alive. But when you start getting in the 120s and 130s and 140s and 150s and 200s, it seems much less likely. Trump picked up on this yesterday as well, just sort of continuing to feed the fire and hopefully acquire the nation's gaze on this issue, going through the list of foreign aid that he believes is fraudulent. Just a few examples.
$20 million for fiscal federalism in Nepal. Listen to these numbers. This is all fraud. $19 million for biodiversity conservation in Nepal. $1.5 million for voter confidence. We want to give them confidence in Liberia. $14 million for social cohesion in Mali. $2.5 million for inclusive democracies in South Africa. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well. They're doing a lot better than we do in the schools, aren't they? $2 million to develop sustainable recycling models to increase socioeconomic cohesion among marginalized communities in Kosovo and Escali and in Egypt. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. I could, by the way, I could read this all day long. I could go on all day long, and you'll see hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're doing it. But when I saw the Social Security numbers, I said, wow, that's really something. So we have, let's just go above 100 years old. We have millions and millions of people over 100 years old. Everybody knows that's not so. We have a very corrupt country, and it's a sad thing to say, but we're figuring it out. Now,
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Interesting, the statement that we have a very corrupt country, because it really draws a line and says you're either a sensible person who is on board with clawing back these funds and not necessarily repurposing them domestically, because some of this money that's spent shouldn't be spent anywhere. And obviously not just the fraudulent money. You shouldn't be paying people who are dead, or you shouldn't be paying people more than they're entitled to, clearly. That's obvious. You also shouldn't, he talked about for voter confidence in Pakistan or something like that. Well, we don't need grant funding for voter confidence in the United States either. We don't need the federal government in the business of trying to engineer voter confidence, by whatever gooey metrics researchers came up with to secure those ill-gotten funds. But that line, I mean, if you are for this profligacy, then you are part of what is corrupting America. And if you're not, then you're standing with the Trump administration. And that's a pretty effective binary, I think, for Trump to put down. Bob, Buffalo Grove.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Always great talking to you. I saw Amy's post on the Social Security distribution of funds. I added up the numbers. It comes up almost to 400 million people. But we got 340 million people in the country. So there's 60 million people that are getting the distributions or funds from Social Security. Where are these additional 60 million people?
Well, I don't know if those numbers are accurate, but yeah, I think Musk is and now Trump is generating conversation around this because everybody gets this is not correct. Everybody who wants to. There's some who don't. Mark and Rochelle.
Yeah, I just wanted to pose a question of all the discovery of fraud. Are there going to be charges following this? I mean, obviously it's illegal, right? So also if funds were fraudulently sent overseas, should they have to return that money? What do you think?
Well, I mean, if we're not going to prosecute Kara Mosley Braun for fraud, then I don't know. You don't want to get into the business of prosecuting these important people. Remember, federal workers, like politicians, are more important than people who are not politicians or federal workers. You have to remember that. That's what we're seeing really on display right now. Thanks for the call, Mark. I mean, in terms of prosecution, I mean, you'll go where the facts lead. It could be just the incompetence of the systems that are set up, or it could be something more malevolent than that. And if there are malign actors that are actively stealing or embezzling, which some congressmen have suggested they expect to find, well, then they'll be referred to the DOJ, one would expect.
And I don't think we ever got those, fraudulent COVID funds that were spent, on fake testing sites and all those places. We never got that back.
Well, not to mention the COVID monies that were pilfered by international criminal organizations and foreign countries and hackers in foreign countries. I mean, this is the problem: is you have what was the 2 points that Musk made? You need a combination of competency and care. You actually have to give a rat's ass about this, and then you have to be good at setting up systems that indicate you give a rat's ass and putting people in place that indicate you give a rat's ass because they give a rat's ass. We don't have that. Dirk in Stager, Illinois.
Yeah, good morning, Dan and Amy. Hey, I was just thinking, there's a whole cottage industry. I've seen ads where you can learn how to write proposals for all this government money, and they start out with good intentions, open up a community center, but then they learn, hey, all I got to do is ask for more and more money, and boom, bam, you're sending billions of dollars to Bali for, LGBTQ.
You just reminded me of, you remember that infomercial guy with the question mark suit, Matthew Lesko? You remember that guy? He was a lunatic, sort of like this loony, goofy guy, a big question mark suit, and zany. He put out this book called Free Money, and it was all about doing exactly that. How you access all the taxpayer dollars that are spread across all these agencies to, put on a transsexual opera in Colombia or to study voter confidence in Pakistan or whatever you'd like to do.
And once you're approved, you got the money, and they don't follow up on what you do with it.
Therein lies the problem. Thanks for the call, Dirk. Therein lies the problem.
My favorite part of yesterday's interview with Elon Musk was when he talked about, his former life. Because remember, the left used to love him. He said the electric vehicle guy, no more gas, no more, he was the man. He supported President Obama, and he was great. And then, he explains how his life is now.
I used to be adored by the left,
Yeah, not anymore.
Less so these days. They call it trump derangement syndrome. Yeah. And I don't, you don't realize how real this is until you can't reason with people. So I was at a friend's birthday party in LA, just a birthday dinner. I have to mention the president's name. And it was like they got shot with a dart in the jugular that contained methamphetamine and rabies. Okay, and they're like, wow! And I'm like, what is wrong, guys? You can't have a normal conversation. Yeah. And it's like they become completely irrational.
Yes, welcome to the world everybody else has been living in since 2016.
Yeah.
Rudy at O'Hare.
Rudy.
Hey, just wondered, who's the congressmen and senators that sponsor this money? That's what they really got to get down to. It doesn't matter how much they spend, but who authorized this money? That's where you got to get to the real answer to the question. Who's the one who's benefiting from this? Who's the last person that signs off on it? Not some bureaucrat. It's somebody way higher up that, goes and tries to get this money for whatever cause they're looking for.
Well, yeah, but as we talked about the other day, Rudy, everybody does it, so nobody's responsible. It's like public land. Everybody owns it, so nobody owns it. because most of this money flows through the regular budget process. And the regular budget process is broken down into about a half a dozen bills to spend, $4 to $6 trillion. And so Congress passes it, by vote. They're not signing checks, and the president signs it. So, this collective action sort of runs interference into individual accountability so long as you don't actually steal the money. If you just shoehorn it in to, either a particular agency that will do your bidding, or you give the agency, particularly pre-Chevron, deference here. We're going to give you $10 billion, and we want you to act in furtherance of America's national security interests using our soft power for, cultural and social enrichment programs in South America and Africa. And that's all the guidance that Congress gives. Well, then now you have a bureaucracy that has free reign to spend the way that has been documented they've been spending. So it's a little bit more complicated than just to zero down to the check signers or a single person who moves a single thing or signs a particular thing, isn't it? And frankly, they count on that. Dawn in Naperville.
Hi, good morning. I think a lot of people see politics as a hamster wheel failure that just keeps going around and around and around, and nothing ever changes. And here's what we're learning from the left: they like the failure. They don't want to stop anything. So when you're not acting in a good faith manner, we need to start at zero-based budgeting that actually goes towards human flourishing, kids who can't read. And speaking of which, Mr. Elon Musk, on the autism spectrum, these people should be ashamed of themselves for making fun of him. It's really upsetting.
Including Governor Walz.
Thanks,
he was
Dawn.
one of the first one to make fun of Elon Musk on a national stage during his campaign. Shame on him. We don't do that.
Well, the federal employees were out in force yesterday on the Daily Plaza. These are downtrodden EPA workers, many of whom probationary, others that are political appointees. One of my favorite. And by the way, the I-Team was there to cover it. The I-Team is on the job, just so you know. This Liz Nagy is almost as ridiculous as Chuck Gowdy was with her television reporter voice. Oh.
She got promoted because Chuck retired, but now he's back at Channel 5, so they had to fill his spot.
That's fascinating. I'm really not interested in the hierarchy of the I-Team news. I'm just reporting on who's reporting for the I-Team.
Thank you, Dan.
This is Deborah Shore, who is a regional EPA administrator for this region because she was an Evanston politician, then an MWRD commissioner, and she also is I think she's the boss over at the Gay and Lesbian Victory Institute too.
What's that?
Achieving victory for gays and lesbians. Here she is yesterday.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk's unprecedented assault on EPA is irresponsible and puts people right here in Illinois at risk.
And, of course, that's where the I-Team's coverage stopped. How does it put people at risk?
Right, wait, please.
Because we protect clean water and clean air. Deborah Shore, you do? If we don't have Deborah Shore as an EPA administrator, then we don't have clean water and clean air? You're the wingnut holding Western civilization together? Oh, my goodness. It is a crisis. Without Deborah Shore, kids will die.
We will die, yes.
And
she's a hero.
Probationary employees that were fired.
I really just kind of got a form letter that I had failed to demonstrate my qualifications, even though I'm highly qualified for this job and I've only been here for a month.
Who's going to answer the phone? My phone is going to be ringing and no one's going to be there.
By 5 p.m., Bridget Lynch and Nyla McCraney were locked out of jobs, cut off from the careers they'd been recruited to fulfill, seeking grants and enforcing clean water regulations.
I'm sad that I lost my job, but I'm also sad that I'm not going to be able to help these people anymore.
My phone's going to ring and no one's going to be there. It's going to be like Goodfellas.
Oh.
When De Niro calls the banker who shanghaied them, says, I'm talking to an empty phone because there's a dead man on the other end of this. Who's going to answer my phone? Thank you for your service. We'll figure that out. The Doge boys are on that. Who will answer incoming calls at some regional EPA office? Oh, the whole system is going to collapse without those 2 probationary employees and Deborah Shore. The sense of entitlement, the inflated sense of self, all of these quote-unquote public servants. We'll talk more about that at 6:06.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
1 dead, another injured in a Naperville house fire. A man is injured in a drive-by shooting just outside of the CTA Blue Line station. An update on charges filed in the carjacking of a woman and her children. Governor Pritzker to address the budget deficit in today's State of the State address. And WIND Chicago News Time is 6 o'clock.
Ukraine's president speaks out. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, the day after his country was left out of talks between Russia and the U.S.
We are partners, we are in war, and we have to resolve this topic.
Volodymyr Zelensky also just said that no one trusts Russian leader Vladimir Putin. And as the war still rages, Ukraine's army is resilient enough. Zelensky will soon meet with U.S. Special Envoy Keith Kellogg. Zelensky wants American security guarantees to keep Russia at bay if there is an agreement to end the war. This is the day after President Trump suggested Ukraine was partly to blame for Russia's invasion.
Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine.
Zelensky says President Trump is living in a Russian disinformation space. The president sat down with Elon Musk, defending him and Doge in an interview with Fox's Hannity.
I wanted somebody really smart.
Musk says the goal of the Department of Government Efficiency is to carry out what President Trump was elected to do and slash federal spending. As for Democrats calling him an out-of-control billionaire acting illegally, Musk says by
fighting the will of the people and preventing the president from implementing what the people want, then what we live in is a bureaucracy and not a democracy.
Now, in one of the many anti-Doge lawsuits, a federal judge denied Democrat attorneys general attempts to block Musk from getting access to federal agencies' data. Winter keeps hitting us hard. There are storm warnings and advisories, Arkansas to New Jersey. Some areas that were damaged in Kentucky's deadly flooding disaster are going to get snow and ice. And Fox meteorologist Janice Dean says it's frigid, too.
Much of the country is under this Arctic blast. Cold weather alerts, really from the border of Canada to the border of Mexico.
It's in the 20s in Brownsville, Texas. Feels like 5 below in Dallas. The wind chills more than 40 below zero in the Dakotas. Pope Francis remains hospitalized in Rome. The Vatican now says he has pneumonia in both lungs, but as the 88-year-old Pope slept well, was able to eat breakfast. America's listening to Fox News.
5 degrees above at 6:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Chicago's first ever hybrid school board is now complete. Yesterday, Mayor Brandon Johnson appointed Sidney Wallace to the board, his final appointment. Wallace will represent District 8B. Meantime, Chicago aldermen today are expected to vote on an $830 million borrowing issue, bonds favored by Mayor Brandon Johnson. S&P Global Ratings downgraded Chicago's general obligation debt rating soon after the city council approved the mayor's $17.1 billion spending plan. Illinois Comptroller Susana Mendoza posting on X Monday that going $830 million deeper in debt right after a downgrade is short-sighted. Governor J.B. Pritzker giving his annual State of the State address today. Democrat State Senator Robert Martwick says there's going to be a lot of pressure to fill limited tax dollar holes.
There's a lot of uncertainty at the federal government, how that affects funding for those programs that Illinoisans place value on, that place priority on.
Republican State Senator Chapin Rose saying one pressure that needs to be transparent is the spending on non-citizens.
When you hear him blame everything on President Trump, remember, President Trump had nothing to do with blowing up our state budget over the last 6 years. That was Governor Pritzker.
Pritzker delivers his budget address at noon in front of a joint session of the General Assembly. An investigation is underway after a pedestrian was struck by a Metro train near Winfield yesterday. Officials in Arlington Heights have found a cause for the garbage truck explosion that injured 3 first responders in December. According to the Arlington Heights fire chief last night, Lance Harris, their investigation found the fire inside a garbage truck likely started because of a illegally thrown away lithium-ion battery, which led then to an explosion in the back of that private truck. Cubs bringing in a 2-time All-Star, but Justin Turner is 40 years old. He was an All-Star back in 2017 with the Dodgers. Bulls are getting ready for their game against the Knicks at MSG tomorrow. Last night, Fighting Illini lost to number 11 Wisconsin, 95-74. The news is a service of Quick Delivery Service. When you need reliable same-day delivery to clients, Quick Delivery will customize a logistics plan to pick it up and move it safely to its destination. Trust their 40 years of experience. Get a quote at quickdelivery.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
On March 4th, President Trump will make his first address to a joint session of Congress of his new presidency.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
And AM 560 The Answer is throwing a watch party, and you're invited to join us for dinner at the Meridian Banquets and Conference Center in Rolling Meadows. Enjoy dinner before the speech, and then watch the speech with AM 560's Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson, and Sean Thompson. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/watch. Sponsored in part by attorney Stephen A. Leahy at Opum Tax Advocates.
For over 23 years, Applied Mechanical Sales has offered boilers, water heaters, and exhaust venting to commercial mechanical contractors. They aid in the selection of standard and high-efficiency hydronic system equipment for replacement or new construction. From schools to churches to high-rises and hotels, Applied Mechanical provides high-quality, cost-effective Camus boilers and water heaters in many of Chicago's most iconic buildings. Mechanical design firms trust Applied Mechanical to support them by specifying the size and type of boiler to best match a building's load profile for the worst of Chicago weather conditions. Engineers and contractors can be confident that they'll experience trouble-free operation for the next 15 to 20 years. Applied Mechanical Sales ensures their boilers are properly installed and operate at peak efficiency long after the initial startup. Go to appliedmechanicalsales.com to schedule a site visit and boiler replacement assessment. That's appliedmechanicalsales.com.
You've likely heard about Relief Factor and how so many people enjoy a better, more pain-free life because of it. If you're dealing with everyday pain, it makes sense you'd want to try it first. Well, Relief Factor makes that pretty pain-free too, with their 3-week quick start for just $19.95. An easy, affordable way to see how it could literally change your life. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain temporarily. It helps reduce or eliminate pain. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. Trying it couldn't be easier with their 3-week quick start for only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. And it just takes a phone call. 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Wherever you're having pain, every day you feel better is a day you live better. Try Relief Factor's 3-week quick start today. Visit ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm, A-rated by the Better Business Bureau. Their award-winning team of tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to end your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other IRS actions. Make sure you're getting the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima today for a free confidential consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
6:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And on the Dan Ryan, we're seeing a disabled vehicle right lane block inbound right at 95th this morning. And delays in North Barrington, Route 59 shut down in both directions between Cuba and Route 22. Very icy, slick conditions. Old Barrington Road, for now, is your alternate. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now, your official Chicagoland weather forecast with Steve Williams.
Cloudy skies, bitter cold day, couple of flurries, high today 15. Flurries this evening, then clear and frigid tonight, low down to 5. Sunny, cold day tomorrow, the high 22. Sunny to partly cloudy on Friday, the high 23. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560. The Answer.
5 above at O'Hare. Your next news update, 6:30, and Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We were commenting at the end of the last hour about Trump taking a cue from that protest song, Which Side Are You On?
Oh, boy.
And putting it right back to the American people. Which side are you on? Are you on the side of this corrupt spending, fraudulent in many cases? Or are you on the side of trying to advance the flag for a government that honors the money that it takes from you? NPR reporting. NPR. Here are these draconian cuts among a federal workforce 2 million strong thus far. U.S. Forest Service, 3,400. Department of Energy, 1,000. Veterans Affairs, 1,000. NIH, between 1,000 and 1,200. Bureau of Land Management, 800. National Park Service, 1,000. Centers for Disease Control, 750. SBA, 720. FAA, 400. And planes are falling out of the skies!
And it's all Trump's fault.
EPA, 400. FEMA, 200. And, of course, the largest so far is USAID with 12,000 because you're drastically reining in that agency and bringing it under the State Department. But, I mean, of those other layoffs that have been counted thus far, I mean, you're talking about 7,500 or so federal workers.
These are separate from the people who decided to resign and take the buyout?
Yes. These are fired. These are not people that took the 75,000 who took the early buyout. But so 75,000 get an 8-month severance package to walk,
nice.
which is something that a lot of people in the private sector, I would guess most, do not enjoy. And then in addition to that, some 7,500 and then plus USAID. Let's take it to 20,000. Just round numbers. 20,000 out of 2 million. That's 1% of the workforce. And America is going to cease to exist as a democracy because these 20,000, or even if it went 10x, to become 10% of the federal workforce. Can you imagine the hysteria that we'll have to endure from all of these entitled federal workers once we radiate out from the initial cuts?
Well, they're going to have to come up with a new song.
And hopefully we will. And this is not, again, to celebrate anybody being dislodged from their job and having to find another job and make ends meet. Appreciate that. I, as I've said many times, I worked in state government. I worked in local government. So, I don't think everybody in government is bad. I don't think everybody in government should be eliminated or ridiculed or treated as less than. But the culture, the larger culture around this, which, of course, is exacerbated greatly by the D.C. press corps is offensive. Oh, this business. From the I-Team at ABC 7 News, Liz Nagy reporting for the I-Team.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk's unprecedented assault on EPA is irresponsible and puts people right here in Illinois at risk.
Mm-hmm. And the rallying and the hand-wringing over rank-and-file workers in particular federal agency, the agency is immaterial. Our friend Selena Zito has a good piece on this. September 17th marked 48 years since thousands of workers who were mainly men did what they did every Monday in the Valley. They walked into the Campbell Works of Youngstown Sheet and Tube along the Mahoning River for the early shift. Within an hour of the worker shift, Youngstown Sheet and Tube abruptly furloughed 5,000 of them in a single day. Within months, 16 more plants owned by U.S. Steel shut down, including Youngstown-based Ohio Works. The community came together in a way that was passionate and admirable. But what actually happened? The mills started to crumble, churches closed, mechanic shops shuttered, so did fraternal organizations, bowling alleys, barbershops, and restaurants. Families were torn apart as both young and old left to find work far from home, ending traditions of Sunday dinner, church softball leagues, and family picnics. Exactly 1 year ago, just 60 miles south of Weirton, West Virginia, 900 people lost their jobs in much the same way when Cleveland-Cliffs Steel announced it was idling its tin plate production plant, the last tin plate plant left in the United States. More than 30 years ago, over 10,000 people worked at Weirton Steel. 30 years ago, Weirton boomed just like the Mahoning Valley did. Now that mill is shuttered, too. Now, her point is to say, where was 60 Minutes and the D.C. press corps when you have mass layoffs of people in the manufacturing sector, or frankly any other sector, but that exists in the private sector? A business is a service organization. So an employee of a business is just as much a social service provider as the employee of federal government or state, local government. That this whole idea that there's one special group of people that are funded by the taxpayers that are dedicated public servants, and then there's another group of people in the private sector that are just money grubbing, narrow-casted, bottom-line addled capitalists who don't care about their fellow man, is one of the great fallacies that persist in America. And I'm so tired of listening to some people be called public servants and other people be treated as, well, spare parts to finance whatever the public servants want, particularly when those public servants are making, similar job classification, higher salaries, and certainly enjoying better benefits, not to mention exponentially better job security.
Well, they can learn how to code. Remember when Biden took office and those 11,000 Keystone Pipeline workers were fired? They told them to learn how to code. Yeah.
That's what he did to West Virginia miners. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was real nice.
Right. So
real
that's
sympathetic.
And that's where Selena Zito is going.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you lost your job at the EPA or USAID, although depending on just exactly what you were doing and what kind of knowledge you had about what you were doing, I may not be really sorry. But generally speaking, I'm sorry that people lose their jobs. You're not rooting for people to lose their jobs. But this is not tenable, what we're doing. It's not right. And to cast these people, again, as our betters, I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of our politicians being our betters. This is in part what the Trump revolt is all about over the last 8 years. You're not our betters. You're not our betters. And by the way, I'm paying on both sides of this. And I know the workers say, well, I pay taxes too. Yeah, okay. I'm paying on both sides of this. And that's fine. And if you're doing some good things that help the community, I'm fine with that, generally speaking, right? I'm not going to kick up a lot of dust. But when you come over but when I know you're not doing those things, and then you come over the top and you start getting indignant with me and what I'm not doing to guarantee you a lifestyle you become accustomed to, well, go make love to yourself. That's where it's at, for me at least. Paul and Carrie, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Morning, guys. I'll tell you a story. I used to work for a company that sold a product to housing and urban development. And quarterly, we would travel across the country to various cities. You know, none of the cities would be cities like Toledo. And all these HUD employees, many of them would congregate at these meetings. I don't know why they couldn't do them in Zoom sessions, but what they would learn, particularly they were learning about how lead was racist, lead pipes are racist, lead paint was racist, and so forth. And mind you, these people were not staying at the local Super 8, nor were they dining out at IHOP. They had stipends, and you would see the same faces, maybe at a restaurant like Bonefish, Maggiano's, and we're paid for that. And let me reiterate, why could you not learn that lead pipes were racist in a Zoom session? Why do you have to fly out to Scottsdale, Orlando, or say Atlanta, to these cities to learn how to actually deal with lead paint and lead pipes and so forth? The waste was just astronomical, and these people, mind you, you would hear in conversations the salaries. Nobody was making 50, 60, 70K. These were all six-figure salaries. It was disgusting.
Thanks for the call, Paul. Well, something else, too. Yeah, you keep hearing this. Well, nobody argues that there's not waste and fraud in government. Okay, well, if nobody's arguing it, then what do you want to do about it? Right. Where would you like to cut? What is it you will not defend when it comes to the status quo? And that's where everything drops off, because it's just about whatever's in front of them. Nobody argues that there's waste, fraud, and abuse, but, the USAID is a wonderful expression of our soft power, and it's integral to projecting America's values across the world, or something like this. Nobody disagrees that Social Security payments, people shouldn't be getting overpaid for Social Security. The dead shouldn't be paid Social Security. Nobody disagrees with that. But do you have to be so mean about it? Do you have to hold people accountable? Do you have to clip people? Cut people from their jobs, cut people loose. They have no problem, by the way, when so much of this turnover is about Trump's political appointees versus Biden's political appointees. They have no problem when it's their people making their political appointments, or their people using agencies for purposes other than their original intention, redefining the mission of a particular agency, which, as Stephen Miller said to Breonna Keller, is all they did with DOGE. It was the Biden administration's redefining of an agency within the executive branch that provided Trump the precedent to do exactly what he did with DOGE. But they never want to connect those dots. And then they want to connect dots that don't connect, like Dana Bash did on CNN, of course, yesterday.
This is happening against the backdrop of massive cuts across the federal government, including at the FAA. Just going to put some up on the screen.
And this is with respect to that Delta flight that flipped over in Toronto.
In Toronto, you're right.
So first of all, they're not massive cuts. Secondly, to make an insinuation without being able to connect the dots specifically is not journalism, that's propagandizing. And that's exactly what Dana Bash did. And otherwise, if you make a contention on her program or CNN, well, where's the proof of that? You don't have proof. You can't connect the dots, but they're free to not connect the dots, to make insinuations. How do they know? How do you know how many air traffic controllers we're supposed to have? And at what levels of proficiency? And at what times of service? How do you know? Do we have too many? Do we have too few? Are they all performing up to par, or are they not? You have no idea. I have no idea. Nobody has any idea. That's the problem. Corey in Woodlawn.
Hey, thanks for taking the call, Dan. Good morning, Amy. Bear with me for 2 seconds. This reminds me of when, in the Avengers Endgame, when Thanos is kicking Thor in the face, Mjolnir is picked up off the ground by Captain America, and Thor says, "I knew it. I knew these guys were stealing our money." And this is just evidence of that. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for the call, Corey. By the way, since he made a movie reference, I mentioned the De Niro scene, and I improperly ascribed it to Goodfellas. Frank, the history teacher from
Arlington Heights.
Arlington Heights corrected me that it was from Heat. It was from Heat. But he thinks he was mistaken. He thought it was the Wayne Grove thing, and it wasn't the Wayne Grove thing. It was the banker thing. Oh, banker that was played by Bill Fichtner, who, by the way, is a great character actor. And it was De Niro at the diner recruiting Dennis Haysbert, who played the president in 24, and of course, the Allstate guy, also a good actor. Yeah. But he was recruiting Dennis Haysbert to be the wheelman in the bank job that was forthcoming, that was set up by John Voight. And that's when he called the banker, and the banker, Fichtner's in his office, sitting across from Henry Rollins. And
real deep now. Okay.
And that's when I just want to make sure I'm accurate.
Okay, keep going. I don't
want to be Dana Bash. Yeah. And that's when he says, "I'm talking to an empty phone because there's a dead man on the other line."
All right. Okay. Wow. Long way to get there, but we got there.
And that's what it's going to be like at EPA, because that probationary employee was fired in Chicago.
Well, it's so weird because they're following these, fired federal employees like they're Hollywood stars or something. Well, following them, getting into their car, and how are you feeling, and what's next, and it's just bizarre.
Anthony, Northside.
Yeah, I got a question for both you, Dan and Amy. How are you? Good morning. Anyways, my point is with the big government is we're talking about, do we really need the assistant to the assistant to the assistant? Like somebody makes the coffee, the other one adds the cream, the other one puts the sugar, then they got somebody stirring it. Exactly. You ever try calling some of these government buildings? You don't really get through. Many years ago when I was collecting unemployment, I was calling the office and there was like 100 people working there, and there's about 200 of us sitting there waiting to get service. So I decided to pick up my phone and call. And nobody was answering the phone, so I said, "Hey, is somebody answer the phone?" And everybody in the room applauded it, minus the employees. Yeah. You know what I mean? Do we really need assistants to the assistant? Those are nonsensical positions.
Thanks for the call, Anthony. You should have volunteered to be the phone answer guy at the unemployment office. Ed, Northside.
Yeah, Dan?
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say that fellow right there was absolutely right. Every government office, unemployment, the Veterans Administration, Social Security, you'll sit on the phone for 30 minutes if you're lucky, and then you'll get no service. It's like that at every government office. So I just want to say, you're absolutely right about there's a lot of good government employees, but it doesn't matter. We have got a monster called big government, and either we destroy it or it destroys us. And for the good people, sorry, but you're collateral damage. And that's exactly the situation.
Thanks, Ed. Jordan in Antioch.
Morning. Yeah, that last statement that you made before this was where these people feel that, and I'm not saying it's all of them, but when you look at government jobs, the thing that really drives people in the private sector nuts is it's basically a job for life. You're never expected to lose your job. You're never expected, and I may be speaking out of place, but it just seems that's just the way it is, in my opinion, is you're never expected to perform, and if you don't perform, we'll just get some more guys to help you out and do the job, while the rest of us in the private sector, we're subject to the market. We're subject to the way things go in the world. And you're right. A lot of these people, when they lose their jobs, and I've met people on my routes that were county employees or state employees that have lost their jobs, and their attitude is that we failed them because they got fired and when they don't have that support group. That's the mentality that drives the rest of us nuts. Is we're expected to keep you working. Your life should never change because you work for the government, no matter what happens, whether it's COVID, inflation, everything else. But yet we're out here and we're expected to keep you in that lifestyle. And I think that's what turns a lot of people against the private sector.
Thanks for the call, Jordan. I mean, that's it. They want to live a life without consequences. There are no consequences. There are no better performance related. There's no consequences for, the business cycles in terms of, things are good, things are not so good. They want to live in a world without consequences. And they're getting a very small taste so far that that's not a realistic place to live. Alex Karp is the CEO of Palantir. We're going to talk more about him and what he had to say a little bit later. Okay. He was on CNBC yesterday because he's talking a new book called The Technological Revolution, which I'm going to read because he's a very interesting guy. He's very smart. He's also a socialist. That's how he self-identifies. He voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. But that's not where he is today. Another one of these tech bros that has moved significantly over the last 8 years. And here's what he had to say about those standing in the way of Elon Musk, including and starting from a proper point, which is the premise is, what's the biggest problem we have? And then how does Elon Musk and what Trump and his administration is doing, how does that address the biggest problem we have?
I like Elon. I know. I think he's obviously the most important builder in the world. And I just think, if you want to say my former side, I don't believe that they're actually engaging. I think it's like another dance where I'm supposed to say, of course, like whatever. It's like there's this one issue where I might, and then you get boxed into you cannot solve the problem. And then I would say, what is the biggest problem in this society? Biggest problem in this society, from my perspective, is legitimacy of our institutions. Why aren't they legitimate? They're not legitimate because, okay, do any of you really believe that 99% of your taxpayer dollars are being spent? But last and not least, and probably arguably most importantly, there's two revolutions happening. One is transparency and one is AI. Okay, so why is it that we do not know where every penny of our money goes? Like, how do you explain that to people? And by the way, slightly more technically, what large language models do is you can go into the contracts and see exactly what happened. So in the past, we couldn't do this. Now we can. The right response is, we want this to happen. We want to happen. We want to be involved in the dialogue. The real response is, it feels like the people criticizing Elon don't want it to happen. And this is going to destroy those people.
AI and transparency are going to destroy the people. They are the proverbial, horse buggy riders cursing or candle makers cursing the advent of electricity. And that's what they are. That's what Alex Karp is saying, and they're going to get run over. And frankly, they need to, because they have undermined this whole approach to government and by extension, sort of an outlook in terms of how a free society should be set up. It doesn't work. It has destroyed the legitimacy of the institutions. He goes on to talk about, there are no quote unquote experts anymore. Not that anybody trusts. Well, why is that? This transparency and AI business, you're not going to be able to stop it. So
both Russia and Ukraine, they're losing. Both Russia and Ukraine, they're losing thousands and thousands of soldiers, and a lot of people have been killed too. I think that's one of the things that you'll see historically, and you'll see later on as it goes along. I think people are going to be surprised at how many people, not only soldiers, have been killed in Ukraine.
Ukrainian President Zelensky telling reporters yesterday no decision can be made without Ukraine on how to end a war in Ukraine. The future of New York City Mayor Eric Adams could be decided today. Yesterday, New York Governor Kathy Hochul met with state leaders to discuss the Department of Justice dropping federal corruption charges against Adams. New York City Council member Robert Holden says the alleged conduct does not warrant this action.
What's the alleged conduct? He met with Tom Homan. That's the conduct. That's what they don't like. He wants to cooperate with the President of the United States, Donald Trump. That's what the Democrats don't like. And I'm a Democrat, but I see it plain as day here.
Critics are alleging that Mayor Adams' charges were dismissed as a quid pro quo. One person dead, another injured after a house fire in Naperville along Red Wing Court. Another person inside the home was rescued and rushed to an area hospital. The cause is still being investigated. Chicago's first ever hybrid school board is now complete. Yesterday, Mayor Brandon Johnson appointed Sidney Wallace to the board, his final appointment. An Indiana House committee has advanced a bill to absorb 33 counties from Illinois on a bipartisan 11-1 vote. The nearly 36 counties in Illinois have passed advisory referenda to secede from the state, 7 of them approving it this past November. Both states, of course, would need to approve any border change along with Congress. Governor J.B. Pritzker gives his annual State of the State address today. Republican State Senator Chapin Rose saying pressure needs to be applied that's transparent on what is being spent on non-citizens.
When you hear him blame everything on President Trump, remember, President Trump had nothing to do with blowing up our state budget over the last 6 years. That was Governor Pritzker.
And a bill filed at the Illinois State House seeks to end property taxes for qualified taxpayers who live in and pay taxes on a residential home for at least 30 years. State Senator Neil Anderson.
If we can agree that at some point you've paid enough money and you actually own your property and you don't have to pay anything anymore, that's the starting point I want to get to here.
Senate Bill 1862 is co-sponsored by State Senator Dave Severson. Cubs are bringing in two-time All-Star Justin Turner on a one-year contract. College hoops, the Fighting Illini, a rough second half in a 95-74 loss to number 11, Wisconsin. The News is a service of In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr., now heard Sunday morning at 7:30, right here on AM 560. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
On March 4th, President Trump will make his first address to a joint session of Congress of his new presidency.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
And AM 560, The Answer, is throwing a watch party. And you're invited to join us for dinner at the Meridian Banquets and Conference Center in Rolling Meadows. Enjoy dinner before the speech, and then watch the speech with AM 560's Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson, and Sean Thompson. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/watch. Sponsored in part by attorney Stephen A. Leahy at Opum Tax Advocates.
You never want to miss one of life's most important moments. A graduation, a birthday, a first communion, a wedding. When these moments happen, you want to make sure to capture them so that you and your loved ones can remember them for years to come. For over 30 years, families have relied on Tom Kaloran Photography to capture important life moments. This locally owned family business can provide the solutions you need for your important event photography, from weddings and birthdays to class reunions and golf outings. No matter the size or scope, Tom Kaloran Photography will make sure you have lasting memories to share for years to come. Tom Kaloran Photography is also the official photographer for AM 560 The Answer. To learn more and to see their portfolio, just visit KaloranPhotography.com. That's KILLORAN photography.com or call them at 708-361-0025. Tom Kaloran Photography, capturing important life moments for over 30 years.
Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
I think one of the things that patients don't realize is that when they get a joint replacement, that's not a lifetime treatment option. And they're probably, if they are a younger patient, signing up for multiple surgeries down the road.
As a physician and medical director for QC Kinetics, Dr. Caravelli's seen a pattern of trending joint pain. Prolonged medication, steroids, then surgery, possibly another surgery.
So a lot of our patients are trying to avoid or put off surgery, and this is the treatment that can help them do that.
QC Kinetics extracts your body's healing substances, concentrates them back into your aching joints to help heal and restore those areas, providing lasting relief.
Oh, I love being able to tell my patients, before we do this surgery, let's try another option. Let's see if this is right for you, because now they might not have to have surgery at all.
Call today for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
The words you are about to hear are taken from letters sent in by members of the Trinity Debt Management Program.
Dear Trinity, today I'm making my final credit card payment.
Before I came to you, I was in a constant state of anxiety and panic, but now there is hope for my family's financial future.
Working with Trinity made me understand that I'm not alone.
You really do help people.
Your kindness will never be forgotten.
Without Trinity's support, I would not have achieved my lifelong goal of becoming debt-free.
We save saved a lot on interest and penalties, of course, but the reward was the gift of human kindness.
Trinity has carried me through a very difficult time in my life. You're amazing.
I used to feel so anxious and hopeless. Now I feel grace and peace.
God bless Trinity as you continue to help others become debt-free.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976. That's 1-800-990-6976.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
6:39. Let's get a check of the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Downers Grove, good morning. Ogden Avenue just reopened westbound between Fairview and Sterling, reopened from an earlier accident. Park Forest, a structure fire is bottling up Western Avenue right at Algonquin. North Barrington, Route 59, pretty major roadway shut down in both directions for the near future because of very icy and slick conditions. Old Barrington Road is your alternate. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now, your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Cloudy and bitterly cold, a flurry late in the day and a high of 15. A few flurries left over overnight, clearing out toward dawn and a low of 5. Currently 5 above right now at O'Hare, 7 at Midway, 2 above in Aurora. And your next news update is at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So again, Trump taking a position on it, Trump issuing an executive order in a particular space doesn't mean that life where you live is going to change with the snap of a finger or the signature of the president. Penfield Central School District in New York. A bit of a controversy at the school there over a book called A Rainbow Parade. You may want to take judicial notice of that. I'm sure it's coming to a school district near you in Chicagoland. Book written by Emily Nielsen chronicles the journey of a young girl attending a pride parade with her parents, who are lesbians. Images in the book depict nudity, drag queens, BDSM gear, and more. The book is described on Amazon as a, quote, colorful journey of self-expression and acceptance. Sounds like it. Yeah. When I think of colorful, when I think of colorful, I think of bondage.
So do I. We agree on something, Dan. This is really a good moment for us.
This book is not just available in the library, it's on display in the library. It's intended to pique the interest of students starting at the kindergarten level. Of course, that's the point. At a school board meeting, parents showed up in Moss to address the school board. This is how that went.
It's important to know that when Dr. Potter said that no one has objected, we have the policy in place, right? The procedures in place. There's a process. That is not how you object. So if you cannot, again, follow by what we have asked you to do, we will ask for you all to, we will ask those people who cannot do that to be removed. We are here at our board meeting, right, conducting our business. You guys, it's our board meeting. Said the truth. Have a motion? Thank you.
So after they attempted to conduct their business at their board meeting and parents objected, as you heard, they just left the school board. They adjourned the meeting and left.
312-642-5600. Turnkey.pro answer line. You could also text us on that very same line. They just got up and walked out, Dan?
Well, you heard the board president say, we have policies and procedures to object. Well, we're here at the school board meeting. I'm a parent. I have a child at the school. I want to address the board. We have policies and procedures to object. We're trying to conduct our business at our board meeting. This is our school, is what they're saying, and we'll indulge you right up until the point we don't feel like it.
Yeah, what they're saying is we're your betters, and this is our, we own your children, and we don't want to hear from you. We don't care what you have to say.
One dad who spoke to the Daily Wire, if you think it's appropriate for children to see that there's what's in this book, then there's something wrong with you. You need to have a mental evaluation. There's no reason that should be in the schools whatsoever at all. You can see the guy's butt clearly out. He pointing to a picture of the book. And then if you go over on this side of the picture, there's two guys standing in bondage right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, looking at excerpts of the book right now, this is gross.
And
what happened to our world?
There was at a board meeting after the board had left, there was some guy dressed up in a gorilla suit with a MAGA hat on that came to the board meeting because it wasn't enough of a circus.
Yeah, why not?
And so now, this was just an interesting wrinkle to the story. So then the superintendent chimed in on that because everybody got all offended. Like this was, the guy in the gorilla suit was intended to be racist. Like you're calling I think the superintendent's black, and like you're saying that black school board members or school officials are gorillas. That wasn't it at all. But this is their opportunity to play the race card so they don't have to address the substantive issue here. Here's one mom at Penfield Central who wanted to address the book, and she provides some backstory on Gorilla Man.
Jennifer Sullivan is a Penfield mother who says she was at the board meeting because her 5th grade daughter brought home a book that was contained with what she calls inappropriate images. She tells me she doesn't know the man in the gorilla suit personally, but he was there in support of a family friend's son who reportedly called another student a so-called furry.
So he came out basically showing, look at the distraction this is. So you're telling me, a girl who identifies as a cat is not going to be a distraction in schools. He didn't come out in that gorilla suit until after the board members left. They were already gone and up and left.
So in addition to the sexualization of children over at Penfield Central, you've got some chick identifying as a cat, and somebody calls her a furry, and then he gets in trouble. Now the family friend or uncle or whatever he is shows up in a gorilla suit in solidarity with a kid who called the other kid a so-called furry because she identifies as a cat. Meanwhile, over here, you've got the controversy over the Rainbow Parade. Nice school system we're running, and we wonder why none of these kids can read or do math.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You could also text us on that very same line.
And by the way, the transing of kids.
Yeah.
Here's let's move from New York to Houston Independent School District. The local Moms for Liberty point person there in Harris County stepped up to the podium to address the school board on behalf of a friend of hers. Listen to the story she tells about what happened to her friend's daughter at the hands of the school.
Hi, my name is Denise Bell. I'm a mom of 4. I've had a child in HISD before. I'm also the chapter chair for Moms for Liberty Harris County, and I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of a parent in HISD. These are her words. My youngest daughter is now a junior at Bel Air High School. Within the last 2 years, we were shocked to learn that the high school was actively socially transitioning our daughter by calling her by a different name and pronouns. On the first day of 9th grade, my daughter's theater teacher sent home an information sheet for us to fill out. The second line of the sheet asked for her pronouns. Multiple teachers started calling her by a different name and pronouns. One teacher even went as far as to cross out my daughter's legal name that she had written on her paper and write her chosen name in red ink. This occurred without our knowledge and certainly without our consent. This goes against our Christian faith, the advice of her therapist, and quite frankly, common sense. We met with her teachers, counselors, and the principal to no avail. HISD is purposely and secretively transitioning minors.
And another in Kansas, a school, Garner Edgerton School in Kansas, USD United School District 231, has banned a parent from all school grounds and activities because the parent took pictures of LGBTQIA2S++++++++ propaganda posted inside the school. So now the parent is filing a lawsuit against the district for violating her First Amendment rights.
I mean, you can't ban a parent from school grounds for that. She didn't commit a crime, folks. She didn't molest anybody. She didn't, distribute child porn. She just took pictures of signage inside the school. I hope to God she sues and she wins.
It's taxpayer funded, and in addition to that, she's a parent.
Right. That makes it worse.
It's pretty straightforward here. We're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. Kansas, New York, Houston. In point of fact, this is rather a jarring number. Parents Defending Education, you can find this at defendinged.org. Nicole Neely is, I think, the ED there, president of the organization. They've compiled a list as of last winter. Below is a list of school districts by state that have transgender, gender nonconforming policies that openly state that district personnel can or should keep a student's trans status hidden from parents. The list, like you just heard in Houston. Total number of school districts, 1,143. Total number of schools, 20,951. Total number of students, 12,222,924. Have a policy, like you just heard from that mom for liberty, at the Houston Independent School. 20,000 schools representing 12 million kids. So I wouldn't take my eye off the ball here because Trump signed a few executive orders, if you know what I'm saying. Lewis in Brenham, Texas.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. How are you guys doing this morning?
Good.
Good.
We are from the Texas area, and my wife is a school teacher. We've had a number of these discussions. Personally, I think that these teachers and school district managers and everybody need to be arrested for grooming. The same way a sexual predator grooms a young child from early on, I think we need to have those same type of laws for these types of people, because to me, it seems that they are grooming these young individuals, obviously, to become, transsexuals or gays and stuff like that. I also think that these teachers need to realize that they don't work for the cities in a way. They actually work for the children, because if these children were not in these cities, there would be no schools. There would be no parents paying tax dollars towards those schools. So they can sit there and say, well, this is our school board. No, it's not. It is the children's school board. It is the children's schools. It is the parents' schools. You just work there to maintain them, and you are educators. You are not parents. You shouldn't be making decisions on what your child should do or how they should be addressed. Just teach. That's all they needed to do.
Thanks for the call, Lewis. Illinois, the list of Illinois school districts from Defending Ed that have these trans policies where you hide the kid's trans status from the parent, or actively recruit and then hide, like you heard the story from Houston. Berwyn South School District 100, Calumet City School District 155, of course CPS. Community High School District 128, Community Unit School District 200, Decatur 61, District 211, Elgin 46, of course, Elgin. Evanston Skokie 65, of course. A lot of courses. Evanston Township High School, Glenbard Township High School, District 87, Glenbrook High School, District 225, McLean County Unified School District, Naperville Unit School District 203, of course. North Mac Community Unified School District 34, Oak Park River Forest, Peatone, River Forest School District 90, Sunset Ridge School District 29. All have policies exactly aligned with what you've heard from New York, from Kansas, from Houston. Matt, Mount Greenwood.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. I'd agree with the gentleman from Texas relative to arresting these people, but I'd like to bring it down to a more granular level. In the event that a parent, I'm a father of 4 children, if I had my child when they were younger at a library or a park and some individual came up and started showing them this type of book or tried to sexually assault them right? Give them candy. I know what I would do to that individual, and I'm sure many parents of sound mind would want to do the same thing. Yet why are these people allowed to do this? And I'm sure all these leftists in the leafy green suburbs who allow this stuff in their schools would probably bring charges against an individual who tried to sexually molest one of their babies. That's just my thoughts. I'd like to hear your answer.
Thanks for the call, Matt. Yeah. Well, I mean, just on another score, again, to the point of Trump signs executive orders. We all pay attention to that. We all have this debate at the 30,000-foot level, and then we're not paying attention to what's going on in our backyard. A dude just won the girls pole vaulting state championship in Maine.
I saw that.
And Jennifer Say was tweeting online that the NCAA policy change that purports to ban men from participating in women's sports really doesn't. So eternal vigilance is going to be required. Again, we allowed these pernicious policies and promoters of these pernicious policies to ingrain themselves in our institutions, thus the loss of legitimacy. It is not going to magically disappear with a few executive orders. It's a pitch battle. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Wow. Are you buying or are you selling? As this is being written, silver is up more than 50% in just the past 8 months. And gold is the highest it's ever been. Whether you are just getting into the metals, want to roll your IRA into silver or gold, or want to take some profits off the table, Fox Valley Coins is ready, willing, and able to help. Even though Fox Valley Coins is a national dealer, they're family-owned and in your own backyard. Fox Valley Coins in Naperville almost always has the product you want in stock and pretty much always has the best pricing when you buy or sell. Buying or selling is easy. Bring your items in. We'll establish the price and pay you cash or check on the spot. Why wait to move your assets around? Did you know that Fox Valley Coins has sold over 3,000 one-ounce silver Donald Trump coins? We have several designs, but they're going fast. Fox Valley Coins on Route 59 in Naperville. Family-owned integrity since 1981.
If you own or run a business and you listen to AM 560, you might not realize that the conservative programming that you enjoy is supported by advertisers. Our loyal listeners love to do business with the advertisers they hear every day on AM 560. Now, it probably won't surprise you that there are some businesses who avoid advertising with us because they don't like what we do here. And that's okay, because our audience wants to support businesses that support what we do and think like we think. We would love to have you join the list of successful companies who are already reaching new, like-minded customers. Most AM 560 advertisers have been here for years for one simple reason: they get results. Join our efforts to make a difference in the lives of our listeners who are passionate about supporting our great family of AM 560 advertisers. To learn more, just visit 560theanswer.com/advertise. That's 560theanswer.com/advertise.
MyPillow is excited to announce that they're having the first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 30% on their brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one Mike has worn every day for 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get the 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. The initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And the best-selling standard MyPillow, just $14.98. To take advantage of the first ever mega sale, go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201. That's 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship has sailed because right now every order ships absolutely free. MyPillow.com, promo code LIBERTY.
Aristotle laid the groundwork for Western philosophy.
The Aristotle bedroom at Penny Mustard is where you can lay down after a long day of work.
Aristotle's studies were diverse.
The Aristotle bedroom is also diverse. It coordinates with any decor.
With lots of underbed storage.
Just think of all the togas you can store down there.
The Aristotle bedroom, starting at just $5.97 a month, with only 1 penny down and no interest till August of 2026 through February 23rd at Penny Mustard.
7 locations throughout Chicagoland.
PennyMustard.com.
Enjoy uninterrupted programming from Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson around the clock, all day, every day, including daily replays of Chicago's Morning Answer on Dan and Amy 24/7. Listen now at danandamy247.com. AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 7:07, Trevor Noah thinks racial integration was a mistake. We'll ask Pastor Corey Brooks what he thinks, 7:07.
But now into the newsroom we go. Here's Mike Scott.
One dead, another injured in a Naperville house fire. The governor to address the budget deficit in today's State of the State. A state representative is proposing an Illinois DOGE. WIND Chicago News Time is 7 o'clock.
More federal workers are going to be let go. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. As Elon Musk, through the Department of Government Efficiency, keeps going through federal agencies, he tells Fox's Hannity DOGE is doing what President Trump was elected to do.
The overall goal is to try to get $1 trillion out of the deficit. And if the deficit is not brought under control, America will go bankrupt.
A federal judge denied an attempt by Democrats trying to block DOGE's access to government data.
The Washington Post reporting Defense Department firings are expected to start soon. Pentagon agencies were told to submit lists of probationary employees after members of Elon Musk's DOGE team arrive. And with a budget of around $850 billion a year, there's plenty to cut, guys, including costly weapon systems the Pentagon doesn't want but forced on them by lawmakers on Capitol Hill.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson at the White House. And more firings are looming at the Justice Department. President Trump posted on Truth Social he's ordering all Biden-era U.S. attorneys be terminated to restore fairness, he says, writing the agency had been politicized like never before. Speaking of the Justice Department, a federal judge asked questions for the DOJ at a hearing today to explain why a bribery and corruption case against New York City Mayor Eric Adams was ordered dropped as the mayor cooperates with federal illegal immigration raids. Now, the mayor denies those two are linked, but some prosecutors and Adams' deputies have resigned in protest, and New York Governor Kathy Hochul is considering removing the mayor from office. City Council member Robert Holden tells Fox it's just politics.
He wants to cooperate with the President of the United States, Donald Trump. That's what the Democrats don't like. And I'm a Democrat, but I see it plain as day here.
The day after being left out of U.S. and Russia talks, Ukraine's president is meeting today with a special American envoy. And Volodymyr Zelensky says,
"You don't want boots on the ground. You don't want NATO, okay."
Instead, Zelensky says Ukraine must have U.S. security guarantees to keep Russia at bay if there is a peace agreement ending the war. Zelensky also said President Trump's living in a Russian disinformation space after blaming Ukraine for the invasion. America's listening to Fox News.
5 degrees at 7:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. And topping our news, one person is dead, another injured after a house fire in Naperville. One person died after becoming trapped on the second floor. Another person was rescued and rushed to a nearby hospital. Cause of that fire along Red Wing Court is still being investigated. Chicago aldermen are expected to vote today on an $830 million bond issue, borrowing favored by Mayor Brandon Johnson. The mayor reiterating recently his refusal to cut any spending when he spoke during a community forum.
We never compromised our value system. We negotiated the details around this budget so that there was a fiscally responsible, balanced budget.
Illinois Comptroller Susana Mendoza posting in a statement on X that, quote, going $830 million in debt right after a downgrade is short-sighted, end quote. Governor Pritzker will give his annual State of the State address today. Republican State Senator Chapin Rowe saying one pressure that needs to be applied, and it needs to be transparent, is where the state is spending on non-citizens.
When you hear him blame everything on President Trump, remember, President Trump had nothing to do with blowing up our state budget over the last 6 years. That was Governor Pritzker.
And Republican Representative John Cabello is proposing the state create its own Department of Government Efficiency, mimicking the Elon Musk-led DOGE, rooting out administrative rules, state agencies, and other unnecessary laws.
Obviously, we want to take it after what's going on in the federal government. We've seen that they have
identified hundreds of millions of dollars in savings. We have a large deficit that we're going to have to overcome here in Illinois. I think it's about a $3.2 billion deficit that we must overcome. And we need to find ways of saving the taxpayers' money.
Cabello on WTTW. Per Cabello's proposal, Illinois DOGE would exist under the Office of the Auditor General and be led by a board of directors consisting of 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. The Cubs are bringing in a 2-time All-Star. The Northsiders inking Justin Turner to a 1-year, $6 million deal yesterday. College Hoops Fighting Illini had a rough second half in a 95-74 loss to number 11 Wisconsin. Also last night, Loyola beat Davidson 77-69. The news a service of Valdecas Windows for the discerning homeowner looking for high-quality and professional-level window replacement service. Contact Valdecas Windows, your award-winning Platinum Elite Pella certified contractor, Valdecas.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Hugh Hewitt knows you can't rebuild in chaos.
Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
That's true. More than 100 years. Napoleon ordered the execution of prisoners in Gaza 210 years ago. All I know is that you can't rebuild with terrorists in place.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer. Are you an administrator, staff member, or parent volunteer at a private school? Would you like to grow your current enrollment and welcome new families to your school? If so, we want to tell you about a great opportunity to help increase enrollment and promote your school to families all across Chicagoland. It's called ChicagolandSchoolVouchers.com. They work to connect private schools with new families who are looking for discounted first-year tuition. In exchange, your school will receive a marketing campaign to help grow your enrollment. Chicagoland School Vouchers does all the work to bring new families together with your school and help you expand your reach. They've been working with schools across Chicagoland for over a decade. As the demand for school choice grows here in Illinois, your private school needs to take advantage of this program. To learn more, just visit ChicagolandSchoolVouchers.com. That's ChicagolandSchoolVouchers.com.
You've likely heard about Relief Factor and how so many people enjoy a better, more pain-free life because of it. If you're dealing with everyday pain, it makes sense you'd want to try it first. Well, Relief Factor makes that pretty pain-free too, with their 3-week quick start for just $19.95. An easy, affordable way to see how it could literally change your life. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally, developed by doctors. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain temporarily. It helps reduce or eliminate pain. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. Trying it couldn't be easier with their 3-week quick start for only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. And it just takes a phone call. 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Wherever you're having pain, every day you feel better is a day you live better. Try Relief Factor's 3-week quick start today. Visit ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF.
President Trump is moving at lightning speed.
Billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse.
Executive orders, new policies, promises kept. It's hard to keep up until now. Subscribe to the Trump Report. This email brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week.
The golden age of America begins right now.
It'll help you follow President Trump at the speed of Trump.
7:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of the Chicago Wolves. Join the Wolves for Faith and Fellowship Saturday night at 7 against the Iowa Wild. Stay for the postgame as Wolves forward Josiah Slavitt shares stories about his faith. Tickets are available at Ticketmaster.com. The Kennedy sitting at about 40 minutes O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. 48 and climbing on the inbound Ike from 390 into the old post office. Bishop Ford jamming up with stop-and-go traffic between 115th and the Dan Ryan merge Report of a semi-fire on the off-ramp to the southbound tri-state from I-80 eastbound. Keep our eyes on that. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Cloudy skies, bitter cold day, couple of flurries, high today 15. Flurries this evening, then clear and frigid tonight, low down to 5. Sunny, cold day tomorrow, the high 22. Sunny to partly cloudy on Friday, the high 23. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560. The Answer.
5 above at O'Hare. Your next news update, 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. On his podcast, former Daily Show host Trevor Noah, who's allegedly a comedian, although I never picked up on it, had this exchange with a woman named Ruha Benjamin, who is a sociology professor at Princeton. And I appreciate this exchange. And I appreciate it for one reason, because it's evidence and should be a reminder to anyone who is at all intrigued by identitarian politics that identitarian politics is the road to ruination as a nation. It is disunifying. It tears at the social fabric. And so the neo-black separatism of Trevor Noah and Ruha Benjamin.
And now I'm separating two things, because I know in America people are like, well, of course, I mean, there was racism and there's segregation. And I go, yeah, no. I'm separating them. Let's separate someone being oppressed and someone not being able to get a job and someone not being able to get a bank loan. Let's take all of those, the negative things away, because I'll put myself out personally and say, I think whether we're talking about gifted kids who are anomalous, let's say, to the norm, whether we are talking about and I mean anything that does not fit into a category. I think part of the reason Finland is able to do it is because, have you been to Finland?
It's very homogeneous.
I've been to Finland. You know who's in Finland? Finnish people. That's it. And because they're all Finnish, there's an idea of like, no, we all head in the same direction. We all know what our actions mean. And that's a really powerful thing I've learned in communicating with other people. When I'm in a room with anyone where we start to tie together multiple things. So if I'm in a room with black people, already there's like an implicit trust because we know what certain actions, words, and vibes mean. And then you're in a room with another African. Already. This person. Now, even if you shout at me, I know what your shout means. The same way an Italian knows what an Italian shout means. Yeah. Right? I know I'm prefacing it with a lot because it's a loaded question. Yes. But I would love to know if you think integration was the right solution, maybe, on the other side of, what America, of civil rights.
Yeah. No, I don't. And I don't think it's actually that controversial when, if you understand that segregation and integration weren't the only options. Like, those are, within those two options, it may seem like integration is the more progressive. Like, of course, we don't want segregation. But again, when you're being integrated into institutions, into a culture that's a supremacist culture, that's a culture that feeds off of hierarchy, that feeds off of insecurity, anxiety, why are we being integrated into that?
Says the professor at Princeton University. This comes out of critical theory, which is also not going away by executive order. And it's another expression of this that is useful to drive the point home, if that doesn't drive it home enough. Cal State University president, the president of a university in California, Cal State University President Luke Wood, black gentleman, makes essentially the same argument. They've got a fancy title for it. being integrated into a power structure, institutions that don't respect you, that subjugate you, and so forth, says the Princeton professor. Says the Cal State University president, Luke Wood, the term racial battle fatigue.
And how basically being in these environments that are oftentimes inherently racist and sexist and dehumanizing, how that has an impact on you. And it immediately made me think of the work of a scholar and a good friend, Dr. William Smith, on racial battle fatigue. And I know that many of you in here are familiar with that, but if you aren't, essentially what his work does is he has created a framework for understanding the cognitive, psychological, and physiological impacts that racism has on your body, even when you are in environments that are like subtly racist. So what happens to you when you're sitting and situated in these environments, either as students or as leaders or as faculty members or staff members, what happens? And the reason that he calls it racial battle fatigue is because what he has found is that the impact that racism has on you is very similar to combat stress syndrome in terms of the characteristics and manifestations of what that looks like. So first, he says it impacts you cognitively, your ability to process information, retain information, and your focus, your attentional control. Second, he says that it impacts you psychologically, constant anxiety and worrying, anger suppression, resentment, emotional and social withdrawal. And then it also impacts you physiologically, physically. Tension headaches, backaches, elevated heartbeat, upset stomach. And so he also then shows that when those conditions are present, that it has an elevated risk of disease and cancer and other negative outcomes. And so I do think that it's...
So then racial battle fatigue, what's the treatment? A separate nation within America for blacks only, a separate place somewhere else? We didn't get the details on that. We just have the criticism and the victimization narrative. For more on this, pleased to be joined by Pastor Corey Brooks, senior pastor at New Beginnings Church in Chicago, Southside, founder and CEO of Project Hood as well. Corey, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan, I'm glad to be on. Thanks for having me on this morning.
So, racial battle fatigue and the mistake of integration, that's what black academics are stewing about these days, can continue to be stewing about these days.
Yeah, you know, these post-60 liberalists, they continue to try to get us to believe that racial identity politics and focusing everything on race is what's going to make us successful. And that could be that's so far from the truth. That's the reason why, Dan, I'm going to be honest, with my last dying breath, I'm going to make sure I continue to fight issues like this and people like that continue to tell our community these evil lies that lead us down a road to destruction. I want people to understand in my community that, listen, we are all created equal. We all need collaboration. God made all of us. We are one people. We're the human race. We're not a black race, a white race, and we're the human race. And when we start understanding that, we can get past these idiots who say these crazy things.
Well, I mean, and the reality is we've talked about a lot, and including with Bob Woodson, your friend and ours, is that the promise of Brown v. Board of Education has never been fully realized. It's not de jure segregation anymore, but it's de facto, and Chicago is a case study in de facto segregation, and that's mainly been in the hands of the government. People in government, black, white, Latino, and other, who don't want black kids to have choices to go to school, and so they could go to school maybe in different neighborhoods than they do at present, and so forth. I mean, to truly facilitate integration and opportunity that is that transcends race, you have people that are actually the big government commissars of all races that have inhibited that.
Therein lies the problem. That's one of the issues that we're faced with in our community, that we are subjugated to these poor schools. The unions have so much control, and as a result, our children are continually being passed and forwarded along, even when they're failing. And so this idea and this mindset that these educators are trying to espouse are doing nothing but continuing the damage that's been going on since the 60s in our community. that's the reason why, I like the fact that you mentioned school choice so often, is because one of the ways that we can get out of the mess that we're in and allow our children to move beyond 4% reading proficiency and 6% math proficiency is to have school choice. We should not have our children regulated to these failing schools and a failing system. But our dependency upon government and having government parent us in our community has been a major problem.
Is that message, are those test scores you just referenced that we've talked quite a bit about, does that get through to the families in your neighborhood that you talk to? Are they aware of this? Are they aware of the performance of their local neighborhood schools and reacting accordingly?
They're not totally aware, but I blame people like myself for that. We have to do a better job at communicating the issues and the problems that are going in our community. And not only do we need to communicate the problems, but we have to come up with the solutions. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going to start a school, one school in 4 locations, because I want to give parents the option for their children to go to a school that is performing. So although it's a parent's responsibility, I don't want to take parents' responsibility away, but it's also responsibility of community people like myself to make sure that people understand clearly what they're up against, and I don't think we've done that good enough.
You wrote in the recent op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, you want Trump to come to your neighborhood and deliver what message?
Hey, come to our neighborhood and tell us you got nothing coming, and it's either sink or swim, because for far too long we've had individuals come to our neighborhood and throw in program after program after program, only to see our neighborhood get worse and worse and worse. And I think this dependency upon government, this idea that somehow the government is going to come in and save the day, it's going to turn our communities around, the government is going to transform our communities, government is going to create more businesses, government is going to create a better school, that's a facade. And when we wake up and realize that, we are resilient, we will stand on our own 2 feet, and we will get our community together and we'll start to transform it. But as long as we have this mindset and this idea, believing that government is going to come in and save the day, we're never going to advance as a community.
But most people in the African American community rely on government and think that they are going to save them.
Yeah, it's not just our community. It's a habit across America. This dependency upon government and big government and regulations, it's hindering us from progressing as Americans. However, I agree with you totally that we have a worse situation in our neighborhoods because it's been going on since the 60s, this dependency. And this dependency has grown and grown, and as a consequence, we see the damage that it results in our community. But the problem is we have so many people who are part of the power structure in our community that depend on government, make their life off government, make their life off of identity politics, that it's a little more difficult to change the scenario and to change the story and to get people to understand, because you have these foes who are working against that message being promoted.
Some recent polling that suggests that Brandon Johnson is not particularly popular across the board, that Stacey Davis Gates and the Chicago Teachers Union is not particularly popular across the board. We've seen some, entertaining ripping of Brandon Johnson at city council meetings by Black Chicago residents who are upset in particular about the spending of taxpayer dollars on people in this country illegally. But I wonder what your handle is. Is there really a revolt happening in some of these black neighborhoods, majority black neighborhoods? Are they really open-minded to getting past the blacks versus the Latinos versus the whites construct and thinking differently about local politics?
Absolutely. Now is the time, if there ever was a time, for there to be a movement across Chicago as it relates to our communities, it would be now. I think it's a perfect situation where people are starting to revolt, where people are starting to understand the magnitude of the damage that's being done in our communities. And they understand the messaging that's coming from the mayor's office and coming from other black elected officials. And that message has not done anything to advance our cause. And people are waking up to that, and they're saying, hey, there is a better way. We can do something different. And we see that in the results of so many people who voted for President Trump, higher black numbers than at any other time in the history of America. I think that's something that we need to continue to do. I think that's something that we need to continue to fight for. And we need individuals, especially, I tell my conservative friends all the time that if you ever wanted to see transformation take place, now is the time to get involved in urban areas, unlike before, because now there is a movement of people growing every single day who want something totally different.
And how important is the migrant issue to sort of as an accelerant to that transition?
Oh, it's a big issue because when people, it's something that people in our neighborhoods we see every day. And then when you start talking about the numbers, the more and more people are finding out they spent how much, they did what, they got what free. Those type of things start to come up, and then we look in our neighborhoods and we see deplorable schools. We see Walgreens leaving. We see McDonald's leaving. We see 63rd Street that used to be flourishing with businesses closed down, and then we realize these are things and institutions that we probably could have gotten off the ground with a lot more success, but yet those funds and monies that were needed have been allocated toward people who have been here illegally, and that definitely is making a lot of people upset. And, you know, even me, I'm a pastor and I love the Lord and I love people and I want to help the foreigner. I want to help the citizen who comes here, the stranger. It's my biblical responsibility. But I also believe that we ought to obey the laws of the land, and at no time should we be allowing people to come into America and take care of them when they've arrived here illegally.
Corey Brooks, Senior Pastor, New Beginnings Church on the South Side, founder and CEO of Project Hood as well. Corey, thanks as always.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
In 2012, the Journal of Cognition and Emotion published a study that showed that we make a decision to trust a person within 100 milliseconds of seeing their face. Making a good first impression has never been more important, and you can make that positive impression with a professional headshot from Tom Killoran Photography. Whether you're a job seeker trying to land your next position, or you're looking to build your business by connecting with prospective clients and customers, you need a high-quality headshot to use with your resume, portfolio, website, or other marketing materials. The experts at Tom Killoran Photography can work with you to capture the exact look you need for your professional presentation. Tom Killoran Photography is also the official photographer for AM 560 The Answer. To learn more and to see a sample of their work, just visit KilloranPhotography.com. That's KILLORAN Photography.com. Or call them at 708-361-0025. Tom Killoran Photography, capturing important life moments for over 30 years.
Be a part of something bigger. The America First Leadership Dinner with Lara Trump is your chance to stand at the forefront of the movement shaping America's future. On February 21st in DuPage County, get ready for an unforgettable evening of impactful conversation, networking, and leadership with Lara Trump, co-chair of the Republican National Committee, daughter-in-law to President Trump, and Fox News' newest host. Lara will join business leaders, elected officials, and patriots to discuss the key issues defining America's future. Seats are limited. Secure yours today at countyconservatives.com. Be part of the movement that became too big to rig. The night will include a silent auction featuring upscale Trump merchandise and an absolutely delectable chocolate dessert table. The America First Leadership Dinner with Lara Trump, February 21st. Advance purchase tickets only. Available at countyconservatives.com. That's countyconservatives.com. Seats are limited. Secure yours today at countyconservatives.com. Event sponsored by MC Go Pack.
President Trump is moving at lightning speed.
And after that, all hell is going to break out.
Executive orders, new policies, promises kept. It's hard to keep up until now. Subscribe to the Trump Report. This email brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week.
I will put America first.
It'll help you follow President Trump at the speed of Trump.
This This is Seth Leibson for townhall.com. CBS News has a problem with democracy. In their service of continuing their ongoing attacks against the Trump administration, they are making claims that otherwise make little sense. Legacy media here always rushes to claim First Amendment protections for themselves when they are challenged, but just this past month, CBS fought transparency in the disclosure of an interview with Kamala Harris it had deceptively edited in advance of our election. Claimed free speech was a major factor in causing the Holocaust, as Margaret Brennan did on Face the Nation, and platformed the defense of suppression of political speech in Germany on 60 Minutes that same night. The last two were an effort to undermine J.D. Vance's speech in Munich last week. Vance spoke boldly, giving hard truths to an audience that included European leaders, challenging them to live up to their democratic values. But CBS cannot handle the truth, which is why they seem so enamored with censorship when it suits their agenda. And note, that's how democracies and media credibility perish.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Paul Jenkins, owner of Bancroft Architects and Engineers, a service-disabled veteran-owned small business providing design solutions for clients, including the VA. When looking for a trusted banking partner, Bancroft was lucky to find that partner in Signature Bank in 2015. With Signature, personal service goes beyond a login and a PIN number. My staff and I have the comfort of knowing that we're dealing with real people who know our business and care about us as individuals. Signature helped finance our new state-of-the-art facility, and Bancroft looks forward to further expanding business opportunities for disabled veterans and historically disadvantaged communities.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Come on with this, people. Move it!
Did you really think you could make that company deliver yourself?
Oh, I cannot handle any more traffic.
You could be getting much more done at your place of business.
I've wasted 45 minutes and now this place is gonna close.
Time is money. Let Quick Delivery Service take on the traffic hassle for you. They'll deliver almost anything, from large pallets of materials to important documents, or both. No forms, no labels, no scanning. Just tell Quick Delivery Service where it's going, they'll pick it up, and get it to your destination quickly. Your cargo delivery is tracked in real time with GPS. Notifications are delivered right to your inbox. Visit quickdelivery.com. That's quickdelivery.com. Or you can deliver like this.
Seriously, another train?
Or get your delivery there on time with quickdelivery.com. Or call 847-534-2244. 847-534-2244.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
More tariff rumblings from Trump and responses to said rumblings from, political leaders in other countries, including Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre in Canada. We'll start there with Steve Moore at 7:37.
And when will the egg prices go down? But now let's head into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
7:32 is our time. The U.S. Department of Agriculture apparently accidentally fired several agency employees working on the government response to the bird flu, and they're working swiftly, they say, to rescind those terminations. Federal judge declines a request from 14 attorneys general to temporarily ban Elon Musk from accessing data at 7 federal agencies. The president and the head of Doge, Elon Musk, sat down for an interview with Sean Hannity last night.
When we give that back to Indiana, when we give that back to Iowa and back to a lot of the states that run well, they run well. There's a lot of them, 35, 37, 38. Now, you're going to have 10 laggards, but you're going to have 5 real laggards, but that's going to be okay.
President Trump with Hannity assuring states won't struggle with education if the Department of Education is abolished. One person is dead, another injured after a house fire in Naperville. No cause. The fire is still being investigated. Chicago aldermen are expected to vote today on an $830 million borrowing plan favored by Mayor Brandon Johnson. The S&P Global Ratings downgraded Chicago's general obligation debt rating soon after the city council approved the mayor's $17.1 billion spending plan. Governor J.B. Pritzker will give his annual State of the State address today. Estimates released project a $3.2 billion budget deficit for fiscal 2026. A bill filed at the Illinois State House seeks to end property taxes for qualified taxpayers who live in and pay taxes on a residential home for at least 30 years. And officials in Arlington Heights have found that they've got a cause for a garbage truck explosion that injured 3 first responders in December.
We're talking with the lieutenant on what our next steps were going to be, because we had fires shooting 4 or 5 feet up in the air. We knew we had a problem because it was a compressed natural gas truck and we couldn't get the load off. And as we were having that conversation, the truck blew up.
According to Arlington Heights Fire Chief, as you heard, Lance Harris, their investigation found that the fire likely started because a lithium-ion battery was improperly thrown away. Village of Skokie advanced a measure to address the damage of last Friday's water main break during last night's board meeting. Village is asking those impacted to fill out a damage and loss form. Cubs bring in a 2-time All-Star. Northsiders inked Justin Turner to a 1-year, $6 million deal. Fighting Illini had a rough second half in their 95-74 hoops loss to number 11 Wisconsin last night. In other college hoops action, Loyola beat Davidson 77-69. The news, a service of Salem Surround, a local digital marketing agency. Go to surroundchicago.com today. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
On March 4th, President Trump will make his first address to a joint session of Congress of his new presidency.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
And AM 560 The Answer is throwing a watch party, and you're invited to join us for dinner at the Meridian Banquets and Conference Center in Rolling Meadows. Enjoy dinner before the speech, and then watch the speech with AM 560's Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson, and Sean Thompson. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/watch. Sponsored in part by attorney Stephen A. Leahy at Opum Tax Advocates.
You never want to miss one of life's most important moments. A graduation, a birthday, a first communion, a wedding. When these moments happen, you want to make sure to capture them so that you and your loved ones can remember them for years to come. For over 30 years, families have relied on Tom Kaloran Photography to capture important life moments. This locally owned family business can provide the solutions you need for your important event photography, from weddings and birthdays to class reunions and golf outings. No matter the size or scope, Tom Kaloran Photography will make sure you have lasting memories to share for years to come. Tom Kaloran Photography is also the official photographer for AM 560 The Answer. To learn more and to see their portfolio, just visit KaloranPhotography.com. That's KILLORAN photography.com, or call them at 708-361-0025. Tom Kaloran Photography, capturing important life moments for over 30 years.
If you have high blood pressure, you have the #1 risk factor for mortality.
Don't be a walking time bomb. Make this change and watch your blood pressure drop.
Order a 120 Life today.
Yes, 120 Life is an amazing blend of superfood juices that can actually help lower your blood pressure.
It's been endorsed by thousands of health professionals and doesn't have the side effects of medication.
It's up to you to control your blood pressure, not Big Pharma.
Seriously, 120 Life could be the natural game changer in your life. Try it yourself risk-free with a 2-week trial pack. You've got nothing to lose but your high blood pressure.
Go to 120life.com and use promo code 560 to save 15% and get free shipping.
120 Life is so sure it can noticeably lower your blood pressure in just 2 weeks, they'll give your money back if you're not satisfied.
Order the 8-ounce drink or powdered mix. From pomegranates to cranberries, it's the delicious way to lower your blood pressure. It really works.
Go to 120life.com now. Use coupon code 560 to save 15% and get free shipping.
MyPillow is excited to announce that they're having the first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 30% on their brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one Mike has worn every day for 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get the 2025 6-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. The initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And the best-selling standard MyPillow, just $14.98. To take advantage of the first ever mega sale, go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201. That's 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship has sailed because right now every order ships absolutely free. MyPillow.com, promo code LIBERTY.
Hair Volume is the best-selling hair tablet in the world and one of many award-winning natural hair products from New Nordic. Purchase at newnordicusa.com or CVS.
7:39, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. For our friends in North Barrington, Route 59 remains shut down and will likely for the next day or so due to very icy conditions. We'll give you an update when it reopens. Old Barrington Road is your alternate right now. I-80 stop-and-go traffic eastbound between Chicago and Briggs. DuSable Lakeshore Drive, stop-and-go northbound right at Foster this morning. Dan Ryan, 40 minutes. Very heavy, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange, and the Stevenson right now 50 in from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast, cloudy, bitter cold for the afternoon, a flurry late, high 15. Flurries continue overnight, then clearing out by dawn and a low of 5. Right now, 4 above at O'Hare. And your next news update is at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Pierre Poilievre is the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada, and ideally the next Prime Minister of Canada, even though he understandably is taking a pugnacious tone with Trump on tariffs. Take a listen.
We must respond with strength, and strength means leverage. America has leverage, and we have leverage. I will use that leverage. Retaliation is only the beginning. Yes, we need to retaliate. If they put tariffs on our steel and aluminum, I will put tariffs on their steel and aluminum. If they hit us with generalized tariffs, we will respond dollar for dollar. Yes, we will carefully target American goods that we don't need, can produce ourselves, or we can get elsewhere to maximize the impact on Americans while minimizing the impact on ourselves. As Winston Churchill said, though, you can always count on the Americans to do the right thing after exhausting all other possibilities. So let me spell out the possibilities for our American friends and speak directly to them. Option 1. You can carry out an unprovoked attack on our economy. Your consumers will pay more and your workers will make less. Gas prices will skyrocket. You will turn a loyal friend into a resentful neighbor, forced to match tariff with tariff and to seek friends everywhere else. Both our economies will weaken, leaving less money for defense and security, and our enemies will grow stronger. Yeah. See, the problem is at times we might be too polite, soft-spoken, and humble for our own good. We are slow to anger and quick to forgive, but never confuse our kindness with weakness.
For more on this, please be joined by Steve Moore, economist, author of The Trump Economic Miracle and the Plan to Unleash Prosperity Again, co-authored with Art Laffer. Steve, one autarky begets another? Steve?
Steve, are you there?
Steve? Do we have Steve? Yes, no? Hello? Do we have Steve or no? Okay, we'll come back and we'll try to get Steve Moore.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
Wesley is a truck driver.
I drive a truck, and I love what I do.
A truck driver with IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.
It got really bad.
Quite a few letters in the mail. They were talking about wage garnishment, coming after my house, my car. Yeah, they don't play around. I seriously thought that I was going to lose everything.
One sleepless night, Wesley finally made a call to Optima Tax Relief at 2 a.m.
Kind of figured I'd get a machine, but I didn't. I actually got to talk to an actual person in the middle of the night.
He found just what he was looking for.
Oh, they were great people. You need a team of people that know what they're doing. Optima Tax, they know what they're doing.
Optima Tax Relief came through with flying colors.
I saved an incredible amount of money. Happy don't even come close. I was absolutely overjoyed.
Take Wesley's advice.
If you're in any kind of trouble with the IRS, call Optima Tax Relief. Don't trust anybody else.
Call Optima for a free consultation. Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
AM 560.
The Answer. Dan and Amy, okay, let's try this again. Economist Steve Moore. Calling Economist Steve Moore. Are you there?
Good morning. Can you guys hear me now?
Finally, yes. You're talking on the right side of the phone now. Good.
I did hear that tape you played of the Canadian politicians, and listen, I've always been a big fan of the Reagan vision that we have a free trade zone between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. It makes sense, so I don't like tariffs. I don't like tariffs on our friends. Canada is a friendly neighbor, and so I don't agree with Trump on tariffs. Although it is important to realize that Canada does have higher tariffs on us than we have on them. But I would rather go with the approach where we lower our tariffs rather than raise them.
Trump saying yesterday he's considering tariffs of 25% or more on cars, semiconductors, pharmaceutical products, and that they would go very substantially higher over the course of the year, quote unquote.
Yeah, I don't like those either. Listen, I do think there's something to the idea of reciprocal tariffs as a bargaining tool with, because, look, the fact is the United States does have virtually the lowest tariffs in the world. That's just simply a fact. And most countries impose higher tariffs on us than we do on them. And Trump wants to, level the playing field. But I think that there's a real risk if you keep raising tariffs and then they keep raising tariffs. It could lead to a very unproductive trade war. But that being said, it is true that there's one country in the world that everybody has to trade with, and that is the United States. So Canada must trade with the United States. China must trade with the United States. The Europeans must have access to our markets. We're the biggest consumer market in the world. And Trump is using that leverage to force these other countries to lower their tariffs. Canada, they can't possibly win a tit-for-tat game with the United States because if they can't trade with us, their economy gets wrecked a lot sooner than ours does. So it's a dangerous game, but I am in favor of using our leverage to get other countries to lower their tariffs on us. What do you think about that, Dan?
Well, what's the conversation like? I mean, the reporting is that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has tried to get Trump to be a little bit more cautious with respect to tariffs, and he's obviously not winning the day in the face of Peter Navarro and others. And I just wonder what, like, the conversations when there's pushback provided on this by Trump, to Trump in terms of, you have to recognize some of the pitfalls here. I mean, there is some dangers that this is not, a panacea for our economic woes or for our desires for economic growth. And what does he say to that? Steve? Do we lose Steve?
This is going swimmingly.
We lost Steve.
Steve Moore.
Hello.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I'm having problems with my phone, but I heard what you said. And listen, Trump has been straightforward from the time he first started running for president 9 years ago that he's a tariff guy. And you're getting what you voted for. Now, I don't like a lot of the tariffs. I love his tax cuts. I love his deregulation policies. I like what he wants to do about drill, baby, drill. I think the tariff issue is really, potentially problematic. But I will say this, Amy, if you look at what's happened in just the last 4 weeks, the other countries back down. Look at Colombia back down, Mexico back down. All these other countries, they're not going to threaten us, and they realize, hey, we've got a high stake here in keeping a good relation with the United States.
Right, but it doesn't sound like Canada's going to back down.
Well, I think they will. There's no doubt that they will back down. I will any amount of money, 10-to-1 odds that Canada will back down here. They can't possibly, if they raise their tariffs on us and we raise our tariffs on them, that trade war, and I don't want to see it, but that trade war is catastrophic for them. So I don't see that. They will back down. I am sure about that. But I kind of agree. Why do you treat your friends like that? Canada is an important ally of the United States. So is Mexico. Now, I feel very differently about China, by the way. I just did a big debate last night in Washington about whether we should impose tariffs on China, and I believe we should, because I think China is an enemy of the United States, and I think they're dangerous, and they should pay.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's sort of like get to first principles here, and do you think it's a good policy or bad policy? And if you think it's a bad policy, then why would you want to do it to your citizens just because some other country is doing it to theirs?
Yeah, if they shoot themselves in the foot, so we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot.
Right.
That doesn't make a lot of sense. But except that you're leaving out, Dan, of the equation that we can use our American might and our leverage. Read Donald Trump's book, the
Art of the Deal.
Art of the Deal. Yeah, because he talks all about leverage and using leverage to get anytime. If I'm in a negotiation with you, Dan, and I have the leverage over you, I'm going to probably win that negotiation. And so Trump is using this. And at the end of the day, here's my happy scenario. At the end of the day, these other countries will cut their tariffs, and we'll have freer and fairer trade, and everybody's better off.
Well, let's hope that happens happily, as you say. The state of moving the extension of the Trump tax cuts, where is that in terms of the House?
I have got smoke coming out of my ears on this. I want to make sure that all your listeners know if we don't get this tax cut done by the end of the year and the clock is ticking, then every family in America on average will pay $3,000 a year more taxes next year. In other words, everybody's taxes will go up. Every business, every small business, every medium-sized business, every corporation in America will pay more taxes. We'll bring back the alternative minimum tax. Twice as many families will have to pay the unfair debt tax. I could go on and on. It is absolutely imperative that we get this tax cut extended and made permanent. And why are they dithering? Why are they waiting? This should have been something they did in the first weeks of the new Congress. Get it done. Trump is popular right now. He's got the wind at his back. He's got the voter mandate to do this. You got a Republican House, Republican Senate. I just do not understand why this is taking so long. And the longer it takes, the more Wall Street gets nervous about whether this is going to happen at all.
You don't know why
Trump?
You don't know why progress is not happening. You don't know why this is being impeded.
Well, there's a lot of factors. I mean, how much time have you got? One factor is you've got a lot of these Republicans and obviously.
Here's Rory Stewart explaining his connection to USAID.
Stopped.
Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead, Steve.
Sorry about that. So anyway, you've got the people in blue states who, we got rid of the state and local tax deduction. Remember that, Dan and Amy? So they want to bring that back. Well, that was a major pay for, and there's no reason people in low tax states should have to pay more taxes to accommodate your high taxes in Illinois and New York and New Jersey and California. Then you've got a lot of Republicans, God bless them, who want to cut the budget. I want to cut the budget, but they want to hold the tax cut hostage to all these spending cuts. And I think that's a trap. I mean, then you're going to have Democrats say, see, the Republicans want to cut taxes so they can, and pay for it by cutting Medicaid and Medicare. And that, how many times have we been to that movie? So my approach would be do the tax cut right now, do it as quickly as possible. Then we can let DOJ, go through that budget like a hot knife through butter and find hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of savings. Did you see, by the way, Dan and Amy, that the HUD, Department of Housing and Urban Development, they mishandled and, quote, lost $1.9 billion? We don't know what happened to it?
Yeah, it can happen.
$2 billion?
That can happen.
Happens.
It's a rounding
I hate
error.
when that happens.
So, Stephen Moore, if we can't get these texts, well, real quick, just to follow up, what about tax on tips, tax on overtime?
We're going to do that.
People?
Yep. Yeah, we're going to do no tax on tips. We'll probably provide some tax relief on overtime because these are things Trump ran on, and he has a mandate to do it. They're popular. I don't think he would have won the state of Nevada in the election if he hadn't had the no tax on tips. So, and you know this, you guys, I was a caddy. I used to caddy for Dan in the old days.
Yeah.
And,
it was like back
and I was also...
Yeah.
Do you remember the Andy Frayne ushers? Do they still have Andy Frayne ushers in Chicago?
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
do?
don't they? Don't they? I haven't gone to a game in a while.
Well, that's what I did when I was a kid. I was an Andy Frayne usher.
Really?
And caddy. Wow, you're working everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. I was a hardworking kid.
Yeah. So on March 1st, what will be more valuable, 1 Bitcoin or 1 dozen eggs?
You see, by the way, there have been 30 major news stories in the last 2 or 3 weeks on egg prices. When Biden was president, there were the whole presidency there were 5 news stories. So all of a sudden, it's all Trump's fault that egg prices have gone to. What are they what are they cost now, Amy, in Chicago? I mean, I paid $7 for a dozen eggs the other day.
It's about that. In Utah, it's $19 for 18 eggs. I'm not kidding you. I'm not buying eggs.
Oh my God! Well, everybody knows that the reason this happened is that that animal lover Joe Biden killed 10 million chickens.
Yes, right. Supply and demand. Yeah, same old story. Stephen Moore, economist, author of The Trump Economic Miracle and the Plan to Unleash Prosperity Again. Stephen, thanks as always.
Okay, guys, have a great week. Stay warm. I hear it's going to be, a high of 3 degrees or something in Chicago today?
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Okay. Take care.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile. Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
This Valentine's season, the Ministry of Preborn invites you to become a heartbeat hero and share the love that goes beyond a box of chocolates, a love that saves lives. Every day, thousands of women are told the lie that abortion is their only option. They can't do it, that there is no hope. But that mother in crisis, when she sees her baby on an ultrasound at a preborn network clinic, it doubles her chances at choosing life. This isn't just an image on a screen. It's about a mom hearing the baby's heartbeat, maybe for the first time, and realizing that's a gift growing inside of her. One preborn supporter said, "Knowing my gift could save a life was the most meaningful act of love I could give." For $28, you can provide an ultrasound and help a mom in crisis choose life. $140 provides 5 ultrasounds. So this Valentine's season, take a stand, be bold, become a heartbeat hero. Dial pound 250, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, keyword baby, or visit preborn.com/hope. That's preborn.com/hope.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Jim Durkin, founding partner of the Martech Group, a global market research firm based in Chicago since 1985 and a longtime customer of Signature Bank. When our business moved to our current Loop location, I recall seeing Mick O'Rourke and his 2 business partners, Brian Duncan and Kevin Destuga, laying the foundation for Signature Bank. When Signature opened its doors in 2006, I was proud to move our accounts there and become a shareholder. Being in the consulting business, the Martech Group has a keen understanding of the value of relationships, trust, and attentiveness. Whether dealing with our U.S. practice or our international operations, Signature Bank is always there when we need them. That's why the Martech Group is proud to have Signature Bank as a valued business partner.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The fight against abortion in Illinois has never been more important than it is right now.
Thanks to our elected officials, Illinois has become an abortion tourism destination. The number of abortions in our state continues to grow, despite the fact that crisis pregnancy centers outnumber abortion clinics almost 3 to 1. Now, thanks to a new effort by Caring Network, it's possible to reach abortion-minded women to provide peace of mind and security to help them choose life. This new Reach Her First initiative seeks to provide women with the assurance and information they need before they choose an abortion. But Caring Network needs your help to reach women who are considering abortion. For a one-time gift of just $150, you can help reach 5 women and help them choose life. That's all it takes to prevent an abortion. To make that gift, just go to 560theanswer.com/caring. That's 560theanswer.com/caring.
Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr., now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Welcome back to Ask Hassellus.
When is spring?
Today.
Huh?
Just purchase a Beauty Rest, Certa Perfect Sleeper, or Sealy Posturepedic from Hassellus Mattress today and get a free box spring.
Okay, but the arrival of spring.
Tomorrow.
What?
We'll deliver your mattress and free box spring tomorrow.
Are you the store with no employees?
Give your mattress a try with no pushy sales guy.
Plus a free box spring?
Yes.
Looks like spring's coming early this year.
Find your employee-free Chicagoland showroom at Hassellus.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 8:08, we'll talk about the fallout from J.D. Vance's speech in Munich, as well as the state of negotiations to end war in Eastern Europe. All that with Cliff May, Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, at 8:08.
But first, let's stop by that newsroom once again. Here's Mike Scott.
Pritzker to address the budget deficit, perhaps, in today's State of the State address. Mayor Johnson makes a final appointment to the new hybrid school board, and the Illini fall apart at Wisconsin. WIND Chicago News Time, 8 o'clock.
He didn't like being left out. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Ukraine's president on the talks to end the war.
This Russian-American meeting in Saudi Arabia was a surprise for us.
Volodymyr Zelensky is meeting today with a special American envoy, while also calling for U.S. security guarantees, not trusting Russian leader Vladimir Putin, who just said a Ukraine resolution is priority. And Fox's Tanya J. Powers reports.
Zelensky made some of his most direct criticisms yet of President Trump, saying he was living in a Russian disinformation space. It followed Trump's suggestion that Ukraine was to blame for Russia's invasion. Zelensky also said his country won't accept a peace deal if they had no part in negotiating it.
Hamas has a new offer to Israel, negotiating phase 2 of the ceasefire there. They'd free all the remaining hostages at once if Israel pulls all its troops out of Gaza. Meanwhile, Fox's Greg Palcott reports from Tel Aviv.
Israel is preparing for a somber day tomorrow when Hamas is set to release 4 bodies of hostages they have held. The militant group said among them would be Shiri Bibas and her 2 red-headed toddlers. The youngsters have become the symbols of the horrors of the hostage-taking. On Saturday, the final 6 living hostages from the first phase of the ceasefire deal are set to be freed.
Elon Musk is defending Doge, telling Fox's Hannity the Department of Government Efficiency has one goal, slashing spending.
All we're really trying to do here is restore the will of the people through the president.
Democrats call Musk out of control, acting illegally, but a federal judge rejected an attempt to block Doge from getting access to federal agencies. The Washington Post reports the next round of Trump layoffs may hit the Defense Department. It's frigid in the Midwest, with below zero temperatures and wind chills. Montana down to Texas.
It's cold for over 90 million people, and we're going to have potential record lows. That's how cold it is. This is an Arctic air mass.
Fox meteorologist Janice Dean. There are also winter storm warnings or advisories. Arkansas up to New Jersey with snow and ice forecast. America's listening to Fox News.
3 degrees above zero in Chicago at 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Chicago aldermen are expected to vote today on $830 million in borrowing rammed through committee by Mayor Brandon Johnson. Illinois Comptroller Susana Mendoza posting a statement this week saying, quote, going $830 million deeper in debt right after a credit downgrade is short-sighted, end quote. A tax bill filed at the Illinois State House seeks to end property taxes for qualified taxpayers who live in and pay taxes in a residential home for at least 30 years in this state. State Senator Neil Anderson saying at some point you have to own your own property.
To keep people in Illinois. If they own a home for 20 years and they have an option of, moving to another state because they're tired of being taxed in Illinois, now all of a sudden maybe, they hang out another 10 years and now they don't have to pay property tax, and that keeps them in the state, buying goods in the state and paying taxes in a different way.
And also at City Hall today, a $7 billion plan to redevelop 55 acres around the United Center in the city's West Side Garfield Park neighborhood obtained late approval Tuesday of a city council committee. Members of the council's Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards signed off on the multi-phase project announced last year. The proposal still needs the backing of the full city council today. The Chicago Plan Commission signed off on the Bulls and Blackhawks project last month. Cubs bringing in a two-time All-Star. Justin Turner signed to a one-year, $6 million deal. He'll show up at spring training. College hoops, Fighting Illini lost to number 11 Wisconsin, and Loyola beat Davidson 77-69. Time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. And now, the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Later today, we'll find out what Federal Reserve policymakers were thinking when they decided to pause cutting interest rates last month. Reuters says though Fed officials remain uncertain about the impact tariffs might have on inflation, they've begun outlining impact to supply chains, public expectations, and prices. Fed Governor Christopher Waller said yesterday he doesn't expect tariffs to trigger persistent inflation. The Trump administration has revealed plans for additional tariffs on autos, semiconductors, and pharmaceuticals. Online dating site Bumble shares are down 17%, even though in the holiday quarter its total paying users rose from 4 million to 4.2 million a year earlier. It is predicting weaker than expected earnings for the current quarter. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda. Invested in you.
8:05, a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Was your Valentine's Day kind of lame this year? Yeah, the same old flowers and chocolates. Well, you've got a chance to redeem yourself and put a smile back on the face of that special someone. You can say, I love you, in the form of $2,000 if you win our Cash for Couples contest. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/love. That's 560theanswer.com/love.
The truth is, viruses cannot be killed, and unlike bacteria, viruses are not alive. A virus is what we call a biologic entity, but we can still do something. We can destroy a virus or even keep it from being able to launch its attack on our bodies before, during, and after exposure. And this is why you need to get the kit. Our winter survival kit. Your body can protect you from these infectious bugs, but it needs a little help building up its immune defenses. And the best offense is a great defense. And that's why you need the kit. It's a perfect strategy for every infectious bug, as well as those non-living, can't-kill viruses. Our winter survival kit is a must for your home or workplace. It contains targeted nutritional components that can get the job done before, during, and after any infectious exposure. So get the kit. For details, call our Health Quest Radio hotline at 800-794-1855. That's 800-794-1855. It's Health Quest Radio with me, Dr. David Kolbaba, this Saturday morning at 11.
Hey, Carl Jackson here for Dennis Prager. While Dennis Prager is recuperating, we know you miss your daily dose of Dennis. That's why Pragertopia is giving you a special gift. Right now, Pragertopia members can hear the best 2 hours of Dennis's favorite segments from as far back as 2010. On Monday, you can hear the Happiness Hour.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's
what I'm about.
Tuesday is Celebrity Guest Day.
Donald Trump Jr. is in studio with me.
On Wednesday, it's the Male-Female Hour.
I really do wish there were a way to ascertain the number of marriages that this hour has helped.
Thursday, the Ultimate Issues Hour.
Not having ultimate issues clarity is like having a map, but you don't know where you're going.
And Friday is Open Lines.
Feel free to ask me anything about me, about you, about life.
So if you're missing your daily dose of Dennis, go to PragerTopia.com and hear all your favorite segments along with lectures, celebrity interviews, and his famous Torah teachings and more. Get your daily dose of Dennis at PragerTopia.com, PragerTopia.com.
You've likely heard about Relief Factor and how so many people enjoy a better, more pain-free life because of it. If you're dealing with everyday pain, it makes sense you'd want to try it first. Well, Relief Factor makes that pretty pain-free too, with their 3-week quick start for just $19.95. An easy, affordable way to see how it could literally change your life. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally, developed by doctors. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain temporarily, it helps reduce or eliminate pain. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. Trying it couldn't be easier with their 3-week quick start for only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. And it just takes a phone call. 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Wherever you're having pain, every day you feel better is a day you live better. Try Relief Factor's 3-week quick start today. Visit ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF.
It's 8:09. Let's get an update on the roads. We do that, of course, in our Team Hochberg Traffic Center. Accident left lane blocked on the inbound Kennedy. It's at Diversey and 1 hour in from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Kennedy outbound, a disabled vehicle, center lane blocked outbound at Lawrence. Due to an earlier accident, the outbound Ike all jammed up between the Burns Circle and Morgan, and delays on the Dan Ryan. Very heavy, 45 from 95th into the Circle. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. And AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Clouds, very cold day today. A couple of flurries late afternoon. High today 15. A few flurries for this evening. Otherwise some clearing. Frigid night tonight, low 5. Sunny, cold day tomorrow, the high 22. Sunny to partly cloudy on Friday, the high 23. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560. The Answer.
Currently 3 above. Your next news update is at 8:30. And Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Mentioned Alex Karp earlier in the show. He was on CNBC yesterday hawking his new book, The Technological Revolution. He's the CEO of Palantir. He has spent half of his life in Germany, so it was interesting. And again, he previously described himself as a socialist. He voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. So some of the comments that he offered yesterday are not terribly surprising for anybody who's followed him, but I think were even a little jarring for Aaron Ross Sorkin on the set of CNBC. Anyway, Karp talking about Germany and about what's happening in the West generally against the backdrop of that speech that J.D. Vance gave in Munich on Friday. This is good stuff. Take a listen. Very important insight here.
But the problem in Germany is that somehow the small portion of Germans that believe you cannot talk about migration without being a bigot, which is about probably 15%, 90% of them vote for the Green parties, have somehow tricked the larger parties into saying they will only vote for things if the far right doesn't vote with them, which basically, as a matter of pragmatic power, shifts all immigration policy to a small group of people that literally will not let you discuss the fact that Afghani immigrants to Germany have a 70x propensity compared to German population to commit certain kind of crimes. And that in the last couple of weeks, every single terror attack has been the result.
Could you go to jail for pointing that out?
You'll get into trouble, but this is the weird thing. Again, there's a lesson in this book, which is do not allow yourself to become a product of people you may tacitly agree with. So, like, I'm sympathetic with non-discrimination. I don't believe in discrimination across any variable. But you are being turned into a product by a certain small sector of the left because you're not allowed to talk about facts. Like, in the last couple of weeks, term Alternative für Deutschland, 4 weeks ago, they were telling me, like, yeah, screw it, I'm going to vote for them. And the reason why is it's our responsibility, and you see this, by the way, why is the Democratic Party committing suicide? It's because
in the U.S. you're talking about.
In the U.S., it's the same thing. It's like we're not allowed to admit, we're not allowed to do true-false. Like, okay, I agree with this person, I don't agree with this person. We literally have to say anything that's ever been uttered from this person in the whole timeline has to be wrong, including border, defense, and this is happening in every Western country. And again, it's very similar to the question you asked. Okay, we know why they do it. The Greens and others are really smart to do this because then in the end, they define how the society's run. But none of us want that society. And it's not bigoted to say, wait a minute, this is not working.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how you can have a small group capture the parameters of debate, and thus, even though they're small in numbers, essentially they represent the ruling party philosophy. And now the flip side to that is to say, well, that may be an accurate description of what's happening, but that certainly doesn't provide any excuse for those who are too afraid to speak up to that vocal minority to do so. And to say, no, if something makes sense, I don't care who's saying it, I'm going to say it makes sense and act in that direction, rather than, no, if it's coming from, a source that we have so decreed as illegitimate, no matter what is offered, no matter what is said, Trump, in this case, in America, he's obviously referencing, then we're going to reject it out of hand. Well, that's the silliness that leads you down this path to where you're captive to a vocal, intolerant, histrionic, unglued minority, which is the story in the West. And we're going to see what the implications of that are in Germany in the not too distant future. And the illegal immigration problem or migrant problem there just gets more and more pronounced. And then you had this knife attack not far away in Austria where a 14-year-old boy was killed by a Syrian migrant. And that's just fueling this discussion even more. For commentary on this and other topics, please be joined by Cliff May, president of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies and foreign affairs columnist for the Washington Times. Cliff, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan and Amy, always good to be with you guys.
That's a pretty good synthesis of the politics, the dynamic of politics in the West, at least on the center left, isn't it?
I think it is. I think it's a good analysis of what's been happening both in the U.S. and in Europe, this idea of radical parties capturing the discourse and, if you will, closing the Overton window. The Overton window being the definition of what it is. What it is socially acceptable to discuss opinions, it is socially acceptable to have. Look, on immigration, I'm somebody who's in favor of immigration, but I'm in favor of legal immigration and not overwhelming immigration. When German Chancellor Angela Merkel suddenly, a few years ago, said, oh, we can do this, let's let 1 million Syrians and others from the Middle East just pour into the country and just welcome them. That was more than the country could digest. You want people who come in as immigrants to want to become, if it's going to Germany, to become German. Come into America, they want to become American. If you have millions of people coming in all at once and you can't digest them, you'll end up with ghettos, you'll end up with social friction, you'll end up with different values, and you'll end up with what he was talking about, which is the kind of crime you're seeing in places like Germany and have ever since Angela Merkel did that. And then the population says, this is a problem, we want to address it. And the major parties say, no, we won't address it. We refuse to. You're bigoted. turn your eyes away from what you're seeing. Well, you have to expect that other parties, other political factions will rise up and say, we'll take the shore, and people will turn to them. That is just a simple dynamic of politics in the real world. People say, oh, I don't like populism. Populism often means what is popular, and in a democracy, you can't ignore what the people think.
Well, Karp went on to, and not that he is not beset with contradictions. I mean, here's a billionaire who calls himself a socialist, but that's a
I'm
sort
not sure
of...
he's still a socialist. I'm not sure that's still the case.
I think he
came from that, but a lot of there were quite a few people like that who did. I look, I could be wrong on this, but I think that from what I know of him, there was a very good piece on him in the Wall Street Journal lead piece in the review section. I think it was last weekend. And he is very much in favor of American values and supporting American values, and that the tech world needs to support American values and interests.
He is. But he was a billionaire when he was still calling himself a socialist, and it's one of those contradictions that only a PhD in philosophy could have. So, yes, he is evolving as much of the tech world is, as Elon Musk has, as so many have. It's been very interesting because of their belief that the West is superior, and they're not afraid to say it, and they were afraid to say it not so long ago. But
exactly, because multiculturalism said you weren't allowed. All cultures are equal, but all cultures are not equal. All cultures haven't achieved the same things. That's just the fact. And if you ignore that and say no, multicultural, that's the slippery slope you find yourself on once you start with this wrong idea of multiculturalism, that there is no difference between, that you cannot say this culture is superior, and then they may not be superior in everything, but they may be superior in some things that are important.
Well, the other thing that he talked about, the two revolutions that are happening, transparency combined with artificial intelligence. And basically, he said, look, so those people that are standing in the way of Elon Musk right now, they are going to get run over. And it's going to change our domestic politics. And the implication clearly is it's going to change geopolitics as well, because those revolutions are not going to be limited to the United States.
All that is true, and artificial intelligence is a revolution that is happening right now. And I think the most important thing from a national security perspective is that the U.S. has to be way in front as leader, because if the Chinese communists are, they will use that to their advantage, and they seek to dominate the world and make America great never again. That is what Xi Jinping intends. And it's very clear. He's made it very clear. We can ignore it if we want to, but that's what Xi Jinping intends. And he is now in a no-limits partnership with Vladimir Putin. And part of this, what I call axis of aggressors, includes Tehran and the jihadis who live there and rule that country in a terrible way. And, of course, North Korea, where Kim Jong-un also oppresses his people and looks south, thinks, how can I take South Korea over? When can I do that?
So this, speaking of Putin, Zelensky made this statement in the last couple of days that's gotten a lot of circulation because it is an opportunity for the press corps to call into question the Trump administration's approach to Eastern Europe. Zelensky said this.
So I will never accept any decisions between the United States and Russia about Ukraine. Never. And our people, never. And our adults and children and everybody. It can't be so. This is the war in Ukraine against us, and it's our human losses.
I mean, I understand that he has to sort of represent, but I mean, is there any real impetus from the Trump administration to cut a deal with Putin that leaves Zelensky completely out of it and just shove it down his throat? Is that it doesn't seem to me that's the strategy.
I certainly hope it is not. As you know, I wrote a column for the Washington Times. It's in the paper today. It was posted last night. And it outlines an approach that I hope the Trump administration will take, because it's consistent with the goals that Trump has articulated, that his deputies have articulated in the past. And what it would end up with is that for sure, Ukraine does not get conquered, does not get absorbed into the Putin's Russian empire. That maybe that perhaps Putin does want, he's not going to say this, but there's evidence, he may want a pause. Why? Because he's running out of tanks, running out of armored vehicles, running out of bodies for cannon fodder. He needs to recruit, he needs to rearm, he needs to get his generals to have a different strategy. He hasn't moved much in the last few months on the ground, and the the casualty rate has been enormous. If that were to happen, then what you want to do is help Ukraine get back the deterrent capacity it didn't have, largely because Biden and Obama refused to give lethal weapons, as Trump did. And how can this be paid for? Well, it's very easy how this can be paid for, actually, and Trump has talked about it. Ukraine has untapped natural resources, in particular critical minerals, huge amounts. That untapped natural resource can pay for the weaponry and for other things they need. And what you end up with is a Ukraine that may lose some territory, not de facto. It doesn't have to be recognized. Maybe peacekeepers from European country. Keir Starmer, UK Prime Minister, has actually suggested that's a good idea. And an economic relationship between Ukraine and the U.S. You do not want the critical minerals that Ukraine has going to China after being stolen by Russia following the conquest of Ukraine by Putin. Putin would also use the human resources as well, I believe, to continue to expand his empire, including threatening NATO members, which would put us in a very dangerous situation of either going to war or ending the North Atlantic Treaty Alliance, which will mean the end of our Pacific alliances as well. That makes America not great again.
And the question about Ukraine's possible admittance to NATO, I presume, if you can even trust that Putin is negotiating in good faith towards an end and not just negotiating with an eye towards consummating what he attempted at some point in the not too distant future. But if so, he'll assuredly want a commitment that Ukraine will not be invited to join NATO. Should that be a deal breaker for the United States, for Ukraine?
I actually think it's entirely a red herring. If anybody thinks that 3 years ago NATO was a threat to any country, I mean, the German tanks barely ran. There was the U.S. and there were all the European countries that weren't spending or doing anything. NATO was never a threat. What's more, to get into NATO requires that all NATO members, everyone, agree and vote for that. You think Germany was going to do that? There was never a chance in the foreseeable future for Ukraine to join NATO. Now, what this could end up with, as I say in my column, are two things. One, that at the end of the day, Ukraine, like South Korea, is chronically threatened but not imminently threatened because you've got, in this case, I would say European peacekeepers there, or a little bit like Finland. Finland fought a war against the Soviet Union in 1939 called the Winter War. What was the Soviet Union trying to do? It was trying to drag Finland into the Soviet Union. They resisted. They lost 11% of their territory, but they ended up independent. And what happened 2 years ago? 2 years ago, Finland joined NATO. I think there could be a similar scenario played out here with Ukraine. But it is a red herring that Putin was so scared of NATO. Oh, my God, so scared Ukraine would join NATO. By the way, he has already taken 2 provinces from Georgia. He is influencing hugely the Georgian government. Russia is next to him, is essentially a vassal state. You got to understand Putin. As you know, I've talked about this with you before. I've studied Putin for 20 years. I've been studying the Soviet Union for over half a century. Putin wants to expand the empire, and this is not a defensive war. He's not addressing the grievance of NATO expansion. That's a red herring. The question
the issue now is not being afraid of Ukraine joining NATO. The issue is if he uses that as a deal breaker and with a hope that the West will blink. Is my question.
Well, what the NATO doesn't want. Here's the problem for NATO. NATO says we are an organization that anybody can apply. We don't recruit. If somebody wants to join, they can apply, and if they qualify, they can apply, and then if every NATO member votes to have them in, they can get in. That's how Finland got in, Sweden got in. Recently, it wasn't so easy. Turkey didn't want to vote for either of them. They eventually got convinced to do so. What you don't want to say is, okay, Russia decides who can apply to NATO and whether or not we will agree. But there was no way prior to this war starting 3 years ago next Monday that Germany, which was getting its natural gas through Nord Stream 1 and building Nord Stream 2 from Russia, was going to vote for that. It wasn't going to happen. So if what Putin is saying is, I want to see you humiliate yourselves, I want to see you agree that I get to decide what NATO does and doesn't do, that's hard to do. But de facto, Ukraine's not going into NATO anytime soon. It never was. That's not the point. The point is whether Ukraine retains its independence or not. And by the way, it could not go into NATO. Could it go into the European Union? Maybe that's for the European Union to decide. The question is, do independent nations, members of the UN, get to make decisions? Or does Putin get to say, hey, I get to make these decisions, and you all say, of course, sir, we understand. You're the czar.
Well, what should Trump's role be in all of this? Because the president's saying that he's going to probably meet with Putin sometime next month.
Yeah, he should meet with Putin and say, here's what I think you need. You need a pause in this war. And if you and you can get that pause. And you need to show better behavior. One is you invaded a neighboring country. You've committed terrible war crimes. You've targeted hospitals. You've targeted schools. You've stolen thousands of children to brainwash them and bring them up as Russian. You've got to back down off of this. And if you do, look, quietly, you'll keep Crimea. I understand you want Crimea. It's a naval base. It's important. Maybe we're going to turn a blind eye to keeping certain territories in the eastern part of Ukraine. But you're not going to take over the whole country, and we're not going to let you do that. But we can relieve sanctions for you, and you can find a way back into the G7, which can again become the G8. And we'd like to see you normalize. But you have to do some things. This is not for us to make concessions to you after you've committed war crimes for 3 years.
Cliff May, president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, foreign affairs columnist for the Washington Times. Cliff, thank you as always.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
All right. Walking, climbing up the stairs, even getting out of your car. Does that hurt? Well, it doesn't have to. If that always there joint pain in your knees, hips, shoulders, and back is bothering you and you want to do something about it, there is good news. QC Kinetics, they're friends of mine, and they offer groundbreaking treatments for arthritis pain, long-term relief if you have pain due to an injury. QC Kinetics regenerative treatments are sweeping the nation, and they're right here in Chicago under the guidance of medical director Dr. Ashley Caravelli. Thousands of patients would tell you, don't wait. Call today. These new orthobiologic cellular therapies, including PRP treatments, can revitalize your joints without going under the knife. No downtime. You don't have to take vacation time to have a surgery that may or may not work. QC Kinetic treatments prompt your body to heal and restore damaged joints. There's no downtime, and that joint pain, as you know, does not get better with time. So before it's absolutely debilitating, see if you're a candidate for these life-changing treatments. Call QC Kinetics for a free consultation. Tell them Amy Jacobson sent you. Saturday appointments available. Call the number 312-809-5955, 312-809-5955. Again, 312-809-5955. 809-5955.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Is Trump freezing out the Associated Press a threat to the freedom of the press? We'll start there with New York Times bestselling author Chadwick Moore at 8:38.
But now into the newsroom we go. Here is Mike Scott.
Chicago Fire Department personnel are battling an apartment fire this morning in the Woodlawn neighborhood, mopping up after CFD says the fire happened at an apartment building undergoing rehab in the 6600 block of South Woodlawn Avenue. That fire was contained to the rear of that building. 3 people were found shot on the city's south side. Police saying the shooting happened Tuesday night around 9 p.m. along 116th Street. 3 victims were found lying on the sidewalk. Victims uncooperative, according to police. 1 person is dead, another injured in a house fire in Naperville. Firefighters were called to the burning 2-story home along Red Wing Court yesterday. 1 person died after becoming trapped on the 2nd floor. The other person was rescued and then rushed to a nearby hospital. Cause of that fire is still being investigated. Chicago sports finds the Cubs bringing in a 2-time All-Star. The Northsiders inking Justin Turner to a 1-year, $6 million deal yesterday. However, the former All-Star is 40 years old. One of the best hitters in baseball slated to become a free agent after this upcoming season. The Blue Jays failed overnight to work out an extension with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. before his personal deadline. College hoops fighting Illini rough second half in a loss to number 11 Wisconsin, 95-74. 2 big upsets around the top 25. TCU knocks down number 10 Texas Tech, and BYU a win over number 25 Kansas. The news is a service of Allstate. Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Those people are probably saving a carload of cash right now. So what are you waiting for? Check with Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate. 8:34. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher sees a new Washington.
They're going to cut out the government waste. Millions of dollars allegedly to Bill Kristol through one of these quasi-government agencies? Get out of here. You got to go to work. The gravy train of sitting home and watching The Price is Right while you got your laptop open and you say you're a federal worker and you're working? Gone. Those days are over. You got to go to work.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
You heard me talk about Relief Factor and how so many people enjoy a better, more pain-free life because of it. If you're dealing with everyday pain, it makes sense you'd want to try it first. Well, Relief Factor makes that pretty pain-free too with their 3-week quick start kit for only $19.95, less than $1 a day. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain temporarily, it helps reduce or eliminate pain. Visit ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF for Relief Factor.
Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer lets you easily compare direct rates from different insurance companies, so you can be confident you're getting the right one, even if it's not with Progressive. Way more confident than you were when you bought that TV in a parking lot. It just happened to not come in a box or include a remote. And when you finally managed to turn it on, all it displayed was the menu of Grumpy's Tacos. So use Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer and be confident you're getting insurance that's right for you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
There is a place in northern Illinois that people have come from all around the globe seeking treasure.
It's amazing. I didn't know what to expect, but when I got there, I was surrounded by all kinds of gold and silver.
An actual place where you're surrounded by treasure?
I've known that gold and silver were a good investment, but I really didn't want to buy it through the mail. At Fox Valley Coins, I basically walked in, picked out what I wanted, paid cash, and walked out with gold and silver.
Walk in with paper and walk out with actual gold and silver bars. For decades, Fox Valley Coins has traded paper dollars for actual gold and silver. They buy and sell. The treasure map is available at foxvalleycoins.com. They are on Route 59, 1 light north of I-88 in Naperville, Illinois. Again, for info and the map, Seek FoxValleyCoins.com.
The fight against abortion in Illinois has never been more important than it is right now. Thanks to our elected officials, Illinois has become an abortion tourism destination. The number of abortions in our state continues to grow, despite the fact that crisis pregnancy centers outnumber abortion clinics almost 3-1. Now, thanks to a new effort by Caring Network, it's possible to reach abortion-minded women to provide peace of mind and security to help them choose life. This new Reach Her First initiative seeks to provide women with the assurance and information they need before they choose an abortion. But Caring Network needs your help to reach women who are considering abortion. For a one-time gift of just $150, you can help reach 5 women and help them choose life. That's all it takes to prevent an abortion. To make that gift, just go to 560theanswer.com/caring. That's 560theanswer.com/caring.
8:38, a check of the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Kennedy right now, an hour 20. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. That's on the inbound side, while the inbound Ike is at an hour 20. In from 390 into the old post office. Stevenson in 1 hour into DuSable Lakeshore Drive from 355. Dan Ryan beginning to back off just a bit. Now 30 minutes, 95th into the Circle. DuSable Lakeshore Drive is solid northbound right at Bryn Mawr, and a jackknife semi in northwest Indiana has eastbound 8094 all jammed up between Black Road and US 35. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now, your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Cloudy, bitterly cold through the day, maybe some flurries, high 15. We'll keep some snow in the forecast for the overnight, clearing up near dawn and a low of 5. Currently partly sunny and 5 above. Your next news update is at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Yesterday at his press conference, President again, Trump, was asked if he's going to let the AP out of the penalty box, and here's what he said about the Associated Press.
But the Associated Press just refuses to go with what the law is and what is taking place. It's called the Gulf of America now. It's not called the Gulf of Mexico any longer. I have the right to do it, just like we have the right to do Mount McKinley, and nobody's even challenging that. But only the essentially, it's primarily the Associated Press, and I don't know what they're doing, but I just say that we're going to keep them out until such time as they agree that it's the Gulf of America. We're very proud of this country, and we want it to be the Gulf of America. Now, the Associated Press, as you know, has been very, very wrong on the election, on Trump and the treatment of Trump, and other things having to do with Trump and Republicans and conservatives. And they're doing us no favors, and I guess I'm not doing them any favors. That's the way life works, but, you know.
I guess that is the way life works. I'm not going to do you any favors if you're not doing me any favors. That seems fair enough. But Mr. President, you don't understand how indispensable the AP is. Without the AP, we don't have freedom of the press. This is the sort of argument you heard from state-funded media, NPR, Tamara Keith, and Jeff Bennett. Take a listen to these two reacting to this contretemps between Trump and AP.
The White House, by going after AP for an editorial choice, is going directly at the First Amendment. It is going directly at the freedom of the press, and it is not coincidental that they are going after AP. AP is extremely influential. They're also kind of straight down the line. They are not a partisan news outlet in any way.
No, of course not. Jeff Bennett echoed that sentiment.
And this is a fight that this White House would want. To paint the press as opponents rather than the neutral observers that we are and that we're supposed to be.
Exactly. They're neutral observers on the take in the case of those two from taxpayers. And AP, it turns out, as well. But they're neutral observers. They have no partisan affiliations. They have no policy preferences. They know no political identity. They're just neutral scriveners of the passing scene. Because that's what we've all experienced, right? Chadwick Moore, New York Times bestselling author of Tucker, the definitive biography of Tucker Carlson. He writes at his Substack, substack.com/@ChadwickMoore. Chadwick, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, great to be back with you guys.
Good to have you. So, what is all this this acrimony between the Associated Press and Trump? Doesn't he understand they are just observers of the scene, integral to a robust free press, so we have an informed electorate and a better country?
Right. Well, first of all, you were correct to point out that, like NPR, AP is also on the taxpayer money take. You just search government documents. They've taken over $52 million of taxpayer money since 2008. And this whole reaction, first of all, this started with them being banned from the Oval Office reception. Now, there's somewhere around 12 to 15 different media outlets that are present at any given Oval Office reception. So nobody needs the AP to tell them what happened. But I think the greater effect of this is as the AP and their friends are screaming and crying about attacks on the press and how important and vital the Associated Press is to the functions of democracy, et cetera, it's really having the effect of, and I think this is probably what's intended by the Trump administration because he's a master at this, it's having the effect of shining a negative spotlight on the AP and all of the media by, number one, showing how little you actually need them to get information. I mean, after all, the entire last election was won with the media totally in opposition to Trump, and Trump skirting the media and taking his message to podcasts, independent media, social media. But it also is showing a spotlight on not only how little access the press had to Joe Biden compared to Trump's basically wide open door policy, and the extent to which the Biden administration was actually violating the First Amendment of Americans, especially through strong-arming social media companies into silencing people and information they didn't like. So it's having a boomerang effect on the Associated Press, I believe, but they don't really seem to see that.
Well, how and why did they get $52 million of government money?
Well, the majority of this came from an organization called the U.S. Global Media Fund. Lord knows where it went, how it came from, but that was about $37 million of it. And then others came from various departments scattered about. So, once again, just like with Politico and other news organizations that we saw getting this money, the documents that we have available to us on usaspending.gov haven't really broken down exactly where they came from or how it was spent, but those are the invoices that were fulfilled. So hopefully there'll be more accounting of that.
Yeah, it's just, like for Politico, it's just sort of subscriptions. $8 million worth of subscriptions from USAID employees. That's a lot of subscriptions at a pretty penny. I mean, this is what the left is doing. And we had been talking about this for a long time, but Doge really put a spotlight on it. Now it's maybe getting a little bit more attention, the attention it deserves, frankly. But we see this at the state level in Illinois, the General Assembly here, Governor Jelly Belly here. They want to move to fund local media with taxpayer dollars because, local newspapers are drying up and they need to make sure that their propaganda gets out into the masses. And so for these outlets that are struggling, whether they're major city dailies or local weeklies, we have to prop them up so that they continue to reprint our press releases. And it's that was the same thing going on in D.C.
Oh, for sure. That seems to be exactly what was happening. I mean, even with Politico's pay system, I mean, what possibly could Politico have that's worth one of those prescriptions like $10,000 a year? If not, it seems like a system that was set up precisely for this. If you pay this massive amount of money for these prescriptions, well, we'll take note of that and probably give you favorable coverage or do, and not just for governments. I mean, who knows who else could be buying into this system.
I love the posture too that without the Associated Press, that you hear from these NPR flacks. Without the Associated Press, you don't understand how indispensable they are. They do this, they do that. They cover the president's comings and goings and so forth. Without the Associated Press, we don't have a free press anymore. It sounds like the aggrieved federal worker. Without me being employed at EPA, we won't have clean air and clean water. I mean, it's just the idea that every outlet of their preference and every person of their preference is just integral to Western civilization. And without them in their position, on their own terms, as they see fit, the whole thing's going to collapse in on itself.
Oh, you're so true. The hubris of the grandstanding. But, this is one thing. The Associated Press also picked this fight because, I'll tell you one thing, and I'll give them a little bit of credit here. They are using Mount McKinley by their rules because Mount McKinley lies fully within the United States. The United States can name it whatever it wants. The Gulf of Gulf of America, they argue is shared by 3 countries. So they initially said they will use both terms, but they didn't really explain what that meant. So if you look at the Gulf of California, that's a U.S. designated name. It lies in Mexico, and in Mexico it's called the Sea of Cortez. The Associated Press primarily refers to it as the Gulf of California, and then it will do it like an aside where it says, also known as the Sea of Cortez, somewhere in an article they're writing about the Gulf of California. So if that's what they plan to do with the Gulf of America, they could have made that more clear, but they didn't. And so they also kind of instigated this, knowing that they could probably pick a fight with Trump and think it might work out well for them.
Right.
But it doesn't seem to be.
Right. But they're these sort of, this AP style business, right? Their chosen words and phrases to describe a whole range of people and things, has been Orwellian for many, many years. They're the sort of the minders and the scolds that the rest of the minders and the scolds take their cues from. But they've been redefining taxes as contributions and illegal aliens as, undocumented asylum seekers for a long time.
No, completely. And actually, just this morning, I was rereading an article about a transgender biological male who identifies as a trans woman who attempted to assassinate Scott Bessent, if you recall this a couple weeks ago. And the AP just refers to this person as a woman. No, just a woman arrested for this, no mention of anything else. So the AP does have this Orwellian way of trying to manipulate language to alter reality.
How have you, thinking back to Trump 1.0 and the big blow up over enemy of the people, the DC press corps being the enemy of the people, and everybody clutching their pearls and rediscovering the First Amendment and making a lot of specious First Amendment claims, as you're hearing here with respect to the Associated Press, but nonetheless draping themselves in it. How do you compare from what you've seen in the first month, Trump 1.0 to Trump 2.0 in terms of dealing with the press and the press dealing with him?
Despite all of this, they do seem much, better behaved than they were the first time around, in the sense that I think they're more frightened of the backlash against them, that nothing has worked ever that they tried to throw against him. And there seems to be at least some, they're struggling with their identity in the same way that their party, the Democrats, are struggling, it appears, at least from just sort of watching them, in a way that they weren't the first time, because they were all on mode for like resistance. We've got to, get rid of the orange dictator, etc. But that they've lost that a bit. They're in the woods far more and have far less purpose than they did the first time around.
Chadwick Moore, New York Times bestselling author of Tucker, the definitive biography on Tucker Carlson. You can read his writings at his Substack, substack.com/@ChadwickMoore. Chadwick, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information. To start your day, it's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
When I started skiing, I didn't think about setting any records. When I won my first race, I didn't think about how many more I might win. So when I made it to the top of the world, it never crossed my mind to stop. Being the best isn't the same as being your best. There are no shortcuts to the top, so find the people who help get you there. I'm Michaela Schifrin, and that's what Team Stiefel means to me. If you're an advisor or an investor, choose Stiefel, where success meets success.
Stiefel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Past performance is no indication of future results. Investing involves risk. Consult a financial advisor before making any investment decisions.
You can hear this today at PragerTopia.com.
Today is a less intense but very revealing subject. Did your honeymoon correctly predict your marriage?
Me and my husband dated in high school. We did not stay together. 20 years later, we ran across each other again, and the rest is history.
So you had no honeymoon?
Nope, not at all.
Hear the entire episode. It's for Pragertopia members only. Go to PragerTopia.com.
It's your life, your legacy. Shouldn't it be your choice? For nearly 2 centuries, Catholic Cemetery Chicago has been a haven for families, offering sacred spaces to honor these legacies. Take an active role by pre-planning your final arrangements. Alleviate your loved ones a future financial burden. Lock in today's prices and take advantage of no interest payments and no hidden fees. Visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org or call 708-236-5490 to schedule a free consultation today.
Hi, it's Scott Tucker, host of Retirement Dakota with Scott Tucker, heard on AM 560 on Sundays at 8 a.m. and again at 5 p.m. I want to offer you a free copy of my latest book, Escape Illinois, Should I Stay or Should I Go? To get your free copy of my latest book, Escape Illinois, Should I Stay or Should I Go? Just go to retirementdakota.com. That's retirementdakota.com. And please listen every Sunday at 8 a.m. and again at 5 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
So how's the separation going? Are you guys able to work things out?
No. I think we're headed for divorce.
That sucks. Going to be an expensive legal battle?
Well, no, that's one thing we agree on, actually. Arbitration.
Arbitration? Like mediation?
Sort of, but better. We'll have a firm decision.
Oh, that's easier. Who's your arbitrator?
Bert Hochberg.
That attorney at Schiller, DeCanto, and Fleck?
Yeah, senior partner. Comes highly recommended.
Are you facing divorce or a family law issue? Burton S. Hochberg offers arbitration services, a dispute resolution process that will save you time, money, and the complexity of litigation. Let Burton hear and resolve your claims with choices that best suit you and yours. To discuss, call Bert directly. Or even better, have your attorney call Bert at 773-255-6150. That's 773-255-6150. Again, 773-255-6150.
No one knows arbitration like Bert Hochberg. Why go through a difficult divorce? Call Bert at Schiller, DeCanto, and Fleck, Chicago's preeminent family law firm since 1981.
If you're getting divorced, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Marcy, 38, homemaker, no income, with 3 kids under 10, recently filed for divorce. Marcy's soon-to-be ex needed the equity out of their marital home to purchase a new home, so Marcy called Team Hochberg after being told by other lenders she couldn't refinance until the divorce was final. Wrong. I helped Marcy refinance with her parents co-signing because she didn't have a job and wasn't receiving child or spousal support. Let's review. Marcy needed to refinance her soon-to-be ex off the mortgage and give him half the home's equity to buy a home, and was told it couldn't be done. And I helped Marcy refinance. If you're getting divorced and want mortgage advice from a lender who can empathize with your situation, give us a call now at 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. That's 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, and MLS 112-4061.
Hey, buddy. Good to see you back on the golf course. You must be feeling better, huh?
Yeah, I finally got my blood pressure under control without all the medication side effects.
Wow. New doctor?
No, a superfood juice, believe it or not.
A juice?
Yeah, it's called 120 Life. It's got ingredients like pomegranates, tart cherries, 6 natural ingredients that have shown to control blood pressure.
Huh.
Yeah, it tastes great and has worked wonders.
Awesome. Are you getting a golf cart?
Nope, I'm walking the course today.
Wow. You got any of that 120 Life on you?
Try 120 Life risk-free and get a 2-week trial pack. Order the 8-ounce drink or powdered mix. Go to 120life.com and use coupon code 560 to save 15% and get free shipping. They're so sure it can noticeably lower your blood pressure in 2 weeks, they'll give your money back if you're not satisfied. Order now. 120life.com. Use coupon code 560 at checkout to save 15% and get free shipping.
A new president is sworn in. America's greatness is being restored. And there's breaking news every minute. Now, tens of millions of Americans are turning off Fox and CNN and tuning in to Newsmax for the breaking information they really need to know. Reuters Institute says Newsmax is one of the top news brands in America. Find it yourself on all major cable systems and on your TV or smartphone store. Just download the Newsmax app for free and start watching. You'll get great shows with Rob Schmidt, Greta Van Susteren, Rob Finnerty, and Carl Higbie, and more. Find out why millions of Americans have made the switch. Even President Trump says Newsmax is terrific, and he's watching. So make the switch to Newsmax. Check us out on cable and satellite TV or download the Newsmax app today. Watch us anytime, anywhere. Remember, Newsmax is real news for real people.
AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Amy, did you know that 7 of Illinois' 26 prisons offer higher education programming?
That's great.
Is it?
Not all of them? 7 of 20? Really?
Only
to
7
get
of
your
26.
GED?
That's the problem. Higher education programming. Only 7 of the state's 26 prisons. So you see the problem. The problem is that not all 26 do. Some good news. Legislation is pending in Springfield. It's been filed to provide financial aid to students in prison to get higher education, which is wonderful. Because then after we get done paying the student loans that were socialized by Biden with the support of Jelly Belly and the entire political class here, of course, when we get done paying other people's student loans that we didn't sign up to borrow, then we can provide underwriting for student aid for ex-cons incarcerated. Yeah. I like that. It's positively Illinois. Prioritizing, right?
Do you believe in redemption? I mean, is that really going to help?
Do I believe I have to finance somebody's redemption?
No, you don't have to.
Yeah,
but you do if you live in Illinois.
Well, that's the student aid piece of it. If somebody wants to better themselves, get their GED, go on to get a college degree, God bless them. But it's always a group project here. And it always seems like there's a certain portion of the group that has to pay the freight for the group, and it's the people who play by the rules paying for people who don't. That's the rub, I think.
All right. Thanks so much for making us part of your morning. Thanks to Justin Kosick, our technical director, and Quinn McCarthy, our executive producer. Back here bright and early tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. Go have yourself a wonderful day. Keep warm. And now let's head into that newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
Battling a fire on Chicago's south side.